Chapter 264. Hearing Du Guangzhong say that the people in Guanxi had changed, Chu Xiu vaguely guessed something. He asked, "What happened?" Du Guangzhong said, "The inspector of Anzhou, Kai Jingsheng's old injury has relapsed. It seems to be serious, to the point that he cannot continue to be an inspector. So half a month ago, Kai Jingsheng resigned from his position as the in-state's patrol inspector and sold all his assets to head to West Chu. I heard that he is going to find the famous West Chu doctor, Anger Yama Feng Buping, to treat him." Chu Xiu nodded. He knew this was the case. Previously, during the competition in the Guanzhong torture room, Wei Jiuduan had told him that Kai Jingsheng's old injury had relapsed, and he would not be able to last much longer. He would have to give up his position as inspector. During the martial arts competition, Chu Xiu had crippled Li Tianhao and helped Wei Jiuduan vent his anger. Thus, the two prefectures under Kai Jingsheng's command were now his. Chu Xiu could also become the most powerful patrol inspector in the Guanxi region. Right now, the Shangzhou Prefecture Inspector Yang Ling was Wei Jiuduan's adopted son on the surface and only loyal to Wei Jiuduan. But in reality he was Chu Xiu's man. This way, a small half of the power in Guanxi was in Chu Xiu's hands. But Du Guangzhong continued. Kai Jingsheng has two state prefectures under his command. He has not managed the Anzhou Prefecture, and the other Spirit State Prefecture has been given to a newly joined Guanzhong Torture Hall Three-Flower Realm martial practitioner, Wei Chongling, to manage. This matter dissatisfied the other inspectors. "Sir, when you joined the Guanzhong torture room, you were recommended by Sir Chu Yuansheng, and you were personally appointed by the hall master." Wei Chongling had no position. But under the insistence of official Wei Jiuduan, the other people could only endure even if they were dissatisfied. This Wei Chongling has been in the Anzhou Prefecture for a while now, and has used the power of the Nine Plains Wei family to stabilize the situation in the Anzhou Prefecture. He can be said to have secured his position. After Du Guangzhong finished speaking, he realized that Chu Xiu's expression had suddenly turned gloomy. His expression was frighteningly cold. This scene gave Du Guangzhong a fright. Did he say something wrong? Du Guangzhong asked cautiously, "Sir, what's wrong?" Chu Xiu said coldly, "It's nothing. I was just fooled once." This time, Chu Xiu was indeed fooled by Wei Jiuduan. The only thing he didn't expect was that Wei Jiuduan could be so shameless. Chu Xiu knew Wei Jiuduan's personality. Last time, Chu Xiu did not want Wei Hanshan's Shangzhou Prefecture, and gave it to Yang Ling, because he knew that Wei Jiuduan did not want him to grow. But this time, Wei Jiuduan had said that he would help him cripple Li Tianhao and gain face for him. The two prefectures under Kai Jingsheng's command would be his. He hadn't expected Wei Jiuduan to change his mind after the matter. In front of Chu Xiu, no matter what, Wei Jiuduan was still his superior. He was also a great expert at the unity of heaven and man realm. Yet he was playing this game with his subordinate. This was no longer a shameful matter. Instead, it would cause his subordinates to be divided. It could only be said that Chu Xiu had overestimated Wei Jiuduan's shamelessness. Or rather, Wei Jiuduan did not care about anything now. As long as there were benefits, he dared to sell anything. Everyone present was on the same side, so Chu Xiu did not hide it and directly told everyone about this matter. This caused Du Guangzhong and the others to look at each other. To be honest, there were not many people who could do what Wei Jiuduan did. If such a person established a sect, the sect's strength would definitely weaken as it developed. But the problem was that Wei Jiuduan was now the disciplinary officer. Even if he was shameless and did not keep his word, the others could not do anything about it. After all, what Wei Jiuduan had given Chu Xiu was only a verbal promise. Moreover, even if it was a written promise, it would be useless. Could Chu Xiu take the written promise to Guanxiu to reason things out? That would be the behavior of an idiot. Was the position of patrol something that could be casually given out in a bet? Were they treating the Guanzhong torture room as a joke? At that time, both Wei Jiuduan and Chu Xiu would be punished. However, they were certain that Chu Xiu would not let this matter rest just like that. He did not have the habit of swallowing his grievances, nor did he have the habit of swallowing his grievances. Chu Xiu asked with a dark expression, "You say that Wei Chongling is from the Nine Plains Wei family? Is it Wei Hanshan's Nine Plains Wei family?" Du Guangzhong nodded and said, "Yes, that Nine Plains Wei family." Previously, Chu Xiu had heard Du Guangzhong say that Wei Hanshan seemed to be the illegitimate child of the Guanxi Nine Plains Wei family. He was able to sit in the position of patrol inspector partly due to the support of the Nine Plains Wei family. Later, when Chu Xiu killed Wei Hanshan, the Nine Plains Wei family did not jump out to make trouble for him. Now, it seemed that the Nine Plains Wei family did not care about the death of an illegitimate child of Wei Hanshan. Or in their view, this matter had nothing to do with Chu Xiu. But now that Wei Hanshan was dead, the Nine Plains Wei family wanted to raise another person to enter the Guangzhong torture room. Coincidentally, Kai Jingsheng's old injuries had relapsed and gave them a chance. At this time, a Jianghu constable knocked on the door. He said that Wei Jioduan had sent news that Chu Xiu had returned and wanted Chu Xiu to go over. Chu Xiu sneered upon hearing this. "It seems that official Wei has been paying attention to me at all times. This time, I want to see what excuse Wei Jioduan, that old bastard, will come up with." Du Guangzhong and the others did not seem to hear Chu Xiu use the term old bastard to describe Wei Jioduan. With Chu Xiu's temper, if he had the power, it would be normal for him to kill Wei Jioduan on the spot. After changing his clothes, Chu Xiu went directly to the Guanxi branch. At this time, Ying Prefecture's Inspector Fang Hua, Lin Prefecture's Inspector Situ Xing, Lin Prefecture's Inspector Jiang Taoran, and Yang Ling were all there. Seeing Chu Xiu enter, the four of them stood up and greeted Chu Xiu. They congratulated Chu Xiu for bringing glory to the Guangzhong torture room at the God Weapon Conference, and for entering the top 10 of the Longhu list. In the past, when Chu Xiu first came to Guanxi, he was just an inspector without any foundation. But now, Chu Xiu was the dazzling number one among the younger generation of the Guangzhong torture room. Even Guan Siyu's personal disciple, Yuqi, was ranked below Chu Xiu. Back then, they could rely on their seniority to ignore Chu Xiu. But now they had to take the initiative to greet Chu Xiu. Among them, Jiang Taoran also had the strength of the Three-Flower Realm. But how could an ordinary Three-Flower Realm warrior like him compare to Chu Xiu, who was in the top 10 of the Longhu list? However, at this time, Chu Xiu's expression was a little ugly. In fact, although Chu Xiu was angry, it was easy for him to not show his emotions. His expression was just for Wei Jioduan to see. After exchanging a few words with the crowd, Wei Jioduan also walked in with a Three-Flower Realm warrior. This Three-Flower Realm warrior was about 40 years old and had a small mustache. After seeing Chu Xiu, a strange look appeared in his eyes, but he did not say anything. Everyone stood up and said in unison, "Greetings, sir." Wei Jioduan looked at Chu Xiu with a slightly unnatural gaze. He waved his hand and said, "All right, sit down. I called everyone here today mainly to welcome Chu Xiu. He represented the Guangzhong torture room in the God Weapon Conference. In the outside world, this is the glory of the Guangzhong torture room, but in the Guangzhong torture room, it is also the glory of the Guanxi region. As for the second reason, there is a new inspector in the Guanxi region, Wei Chongling. He will take over Kai Jingsheng's position. At that time, you Chu Xiu were in Eastern Qi, so you did not have the time to meet him. Today is a good time to make up for it. From now on, you will be colleagues, and you must work together sincerely." However, at this time, Chu Xiu suddenly raised his hand and said, "Sir, this is not urgent. I still have some matters regarding this God Weapon Conference that I want to report to you alone." Wei Jioduan frowned, but since Chu Xiu had said so, he could only say, "All right, then come in with me." After bringing Chu Xiu into a private secret room, Wei Jioduan asked, "What do you want to say?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "Do you not know what I want to say, Sir Wei? Why are the two state capitals that should belong to me now in Wei Chongling's hands?" Feeling the unfriendliness in Chu Xiu's tone, Wei Jioduan snorted coldly and said, "Chu Xiu, are you questioning me?" Chu Xiu said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, "This subordinate just wants justice." Seeing Chu Xiu's attitude, Wei Jioduan was furious, but he did not act out on the spot. Right now, Chu Xiu's status was different. It could be said that Chu Xiu was not just an inspector of Guanxi, but the top person of the younger generation of the Guangzhong torture room. He represented the Guangzhong torture room in the Jianghu. If Wei Jioduan dared to punish Chu Xiu at this time, or take away his position. This kind of mistreatment of a meritorious official would alarm Guan Xiyu. In order to prevent the people of the Guanzhong torture room from being dissatisfied, it would be Wei Jiuduan's bad luck then. Wei Jiuduan did not want to cause trouble when he was about to retire, so he sighed and said, Chu Xiu, you have to understand my difficulties. Do you think I want to keep Wei Chongling? I was forced to do so. Wei Hanshan was the illegitimate child of the Nine Crystal Wei family. Although he was only an illegitimate child, the Nine Crystal Wei family had invested a lot in him. Now that Wei Hanshan was dead, how could the Nine Crystal Wei family be willing to accept it? You do not know, in the past, you and Wei Hanshan were at odds. In reality, the Wei family had prepared to deal with you, but I stopped them. Later, the Wei family proposed a condition for me to take out one of Kai Jingsheng's state capitals and support a direct descendant of the Wei family to be the inspector. I agreed to their condition, so the Wei family did not come to make trouble for you. Otherwise, do you think the Wei family would be so peaceful? At this point, Wei Jiuduan's tone changed to one of earnest persuasion. However, you don't need to be unwilling. I only gave the Wei family a prefecture. Kai Jingsheng still has another prefecture under his command. That is yours. Chapter 265. Wei Jiuduan's words were dignified, but in reality, even an idiot would not believe them. If the Nine Plains Wei family wanted to make trouble for Chu Xiu, then let them. Would Chu Xiu be afraid of the Nine Plains Wei family? While the Nine Plains Wei family was a large Guanxi family, do not forget that this was Guanzhong, the Guanzhong of the Guanzhong torture room. Even when Wei Chongling was the inspector, news of Chu Xiu at the God Weapon Conference had not yet spread. But he had defeated a group of young experts of the Guanzhong torture room at the main hall, and became the face of the Guanzhong torture room. Would the Guanzhong torture room watch as a face like Chu Xiu was bullied by the local martial arts factions? Even if Wei Jiuduan did not care, Guan Xiyu would care. To put it bluntly, the Nine Plains Wei family must have offered something that Wei Jiuduan couldn't refuse. That was why Wei Jiuduan completely threw away his reputation and face and handed over Kai Jingsheng's position to the Wei family. Chu Xiu said gravely, "But Darren, this subordinate does not accept this. Last time, you wanted to give Wei Hanshan's Shangzhou government to Yang Ling, and I agreed. Yang Ling is your adopted son, and I gave you face. But this time, I won Kai Jingsheng's 2 prefectures with my own hands. Why should I give them away?" Wei Jiuduan snorted coldly. "Chu Xiu, you have to think of the big picture. The Wei family is a large Guanxi family. If you give them the position of inspector, they will be more stable. Do you have to make a big deal out of this matter?" At this point, Wei Jiuduan slowed down his tone and said, "Chu Xiu, you have to set your sights further. Right now you have both fame and merit. Among the patrol envoys under me, your strength and advantage are the strongest. Don't worry, you've been wrong this time, but I won't forget you. After I retire in a few years, when your foundation and strength have stabilized, I'll recommend you to the higher-ups and let you become the disciplinary officer. Yang Ling is my godson, and my connections are all with Yang Ling. When the time comes, I will let Yang Ling assist you, and I guarantee that you will be able to smoothly sit in your position as the disciplinary officer." As soon as he said that, Chu Xiu sneered in his heart. Wei Jiuduan did not know that Yang Ling had already completely sided with Chu Xiu. He had said these words to Yang Ling not long ago. However, at that time he told Yang Ling that Chu Xiu would assist Yang Ling. Now it was naturally Yang Ling who would assist him. Although Chu Xiu was disdainful in his heart, he still put on a look of unwillingness and resignation. He lowered his head and said with a hint of unwillingness, "This subordinate obeys." Seeing Chu Xiu's appearance, Wei Jiuduan nodded in satisfaction. As long as he was still the disciplinary officer, he could firmly suppress Chu Xiu. However, he did not see a hint of coldness in Chu Xiu's eyes when he lowered his head. Now was not the time to fall out, but sooner or later, Chu Xiu would take back everything he deserved. At that time, he would probably have to collect some interest. When Wei Jiuduan and Chu Xiu walked out with gloomy expressions, the inspectors present all had different expressions. They did not know about the agreement between Wei Jiuduan and Chu Xiu. However, with Chu Xiu's contributions this time, There was nothing wrong with handing over the 2 prefectures under Kai Jingsheng to Chu Xiu to manage. But now, it seemed that Wei Jiuduan did not have such plans. The people present did not say anything. Other than Yang Ling, who was Chu Xiu's subordinate, the others were all old people of the Guanxi Inspector Hall. They had a general understanding of Wei Jiuduan's personality. Moreover, to put it in a dark way, they did not feel good about letting a young inspector like Chu Xiu ride over their heads. Hence, no one said anything at that moment. Wei Jiuduan waved his hand and said, "All right, let's stop here. Starting today, Wei Chongling will manage Spirit State, and Chu Xiu will manage Anzhou. Disperse." Wei Chongling was backed by the 9 Plains Wei family. He had stabilized his position as the Spirit State Inspector. No one said anything. With Chu Xiu's current strength and achievements, no one would say anything if he were to manage the prefecture. Everyone nodded their heads in agreement and left. When they reached the door of the branch hall, Wei Chongling walked next to Chu Xiu and said in a low voice, "Official Chu seems very unhappy." In reality, the one who should be unhappy is the 9 Plains Wei family. Does Official Chu know how much effort the 9 Plains Wei family spent to nurture Wei Hanshan? In the end, Wei Hanshan died prematurely. The Wei family spent a great deal of money to let me take the position of inspector. As for how Wei Hanshan died in the past, my Wei clan will not pursue it. However, my Wei clan hopes that Lord Chu can remember that in the future, we will mind our own business. I am not that illegitimate son of Wei Hanshan, and my Wei clan does not wish to produce a 3rd patrol inspector. Wei Chongling's tone was slightly threatening. Of course, in his view, this was not a threat, but a compromise of the Wei family. The evidence of how Wei Hanshan had died back then was right there. The Wei family could not think of reversing the verdict. But back then, Wei Hanshan had returned to the Wei family to ask for help in order to deal with Chu Xiu. But the Wei family had just started preparing when Wei Hanshan died. And died in front of Chu Xiu. How could there be such a coincidence in the world? In any case, the Wei family did not believe it. As a major Guanxi family, and not considering the Guangzhou torture room headquarters, the 9 Plains Wei family could even challenge Wei Jiuduan. So when they first learned of the news, the 9 Plains Wei family had planned to teach Chu Xiu a lesson. But later, they learned that Chu Xiu had displayed such power at the God Weapon Conference. When he returned to the Guangzhou torture room, his status would rise. While the 9 Plains Wei family would not fear Chu Xiu, they could not bully Chu Xiu like they bullied other people. So the 9 Plains Wei family changed their plans and reconciled with Chu Xiu. Of course, in Wei Chongling's view, there was nothing wrong with his tone. The Wei family just wanted to reconcile with Chu Xiu and not admit defeat. Just like Wei Chongling said, from now on, they would not interfere with each other's business. But Wei Chongling's words were ear-piercing in Chu Xiu's ears. Chu Xiu turned his head and smiled coldly. "Do not pursue this matter? Who does the Wei family think you are that you qualify to pursue me? Not interfering with each other's business? Do you qualify?" Wei Chongling stilled. He had not expected Chu Xiu to have such an attitude. Wei Chongling said coldly, "Chu Xiu, don't be so shameless." This time, Chu Xiu was not in the mood to waste words with him. He was not in a good mood to begin with. This idiot had come up to him and said such nonsense. He was seeking death. So Chu Xiu formed a fist seal, turned and threw a great Vajra wheel seal. Immediately, blinding Buddhist light erupted. The powerful presence attracted the attention of Jiang Taoran and the others. Wei Chongling had not expected Chu Xiu to suddenly attack him. He hurriedly moved to block, but his own energy was easily crushed by Chu Xiu's great Vajra wheel seal. He was sent flying by the seal and vomited blood. Chu Xiu's hand formed the internal binding seal. His body moved and he immediately caught up to Wei Chongling, who had been thrown away. He grabbed his neck, sealed the other's energy, and lifted him up. He said coldly, "The most important thing for a person is to know themselves. I am the strongest of the younger generation of Guangzhou Torture Hall. I have just earned a reputation for the torture hall in the Jianghu, and gained face. You, an idiot trash, dares to talk to me. Are you worthy? Go tell your 9 Plains Wei family that if you want to talk to me, send someone qualified first. You are far from qualified." As he finished speaking, Chu Xiu threw Wei Chongling to the side like a dead dog. This made the Jianghu constables of the Guanxi branch speechless. They thought to themselves that this official Chu was indeed a famous figure in the Jianghu. They were both in the three-flower realm, but Wei Chongling could not withstand a single blow from Chu Xiao. Jiang Taoran and the others looked at each other and turned to leave as if they had not seen anything. Wei Chongling, that idiot, did not know the situation and ran to provoke Chu Xiao at this time. He was looking for death. But they also thought to themselves, after the God Weapon Conference, Chu Xiao's strength had increased greatly, and his temper had also increased greatly. He dared to fight at the gates of the Guanxi branch. Was he not afraid of Wei Jiuduan's punishment? In reality, Chu Xiao was not afraid. Moreover, from the time Chu Xiao had attacked until now, with Wei Jiuduan's strength he had sensed everything. But he had not shown himself. He pretended to be deaf and dumb, as though he had not seen anything. The reason was simple. He was in the wrong today. He had given the provincial government that should have belonged to Chu Xiao to Wei Chongling. But now Wei Chongling had recklessly provoked Chu Xiao. He deserved to be taught a lesson. Wei Jiuduan had received benefits from the Wei family, but those benefits were only enough for him to help Wei Chongling to the position of inspector. It was not enough for him to stand on Wei Chongling's side and brazenly protect him. Also, after today's matter, Chu Xiao would not be in a good mood. Was it not right for him to vent his anger? As long as Chu Xiao was not crazy enough to kill Wei Chongling on the spot, Wei Jiuduan would not appear. Wei Chongling lay on the ground. Feeling the gazes of the Guanzhong torture room martial practitioners around him, his face burned. He wanted to find a crack in the ground to hide in. Being humiliated by Chu Xiao in front of everyone, it could be said that he had lost all face as the new patrol inspector. Chu Xiao, just you wait. Wei Chongling struggled to climb up. He did not have the face to stay here. He returned to his Spirit State Prefecture and wrote a letter to the Nine Plains Wei family to ask for help. Right now, he could only hope that the family would appear to help him. Otherwise, he really could not do anything to Chu Xiao. In terms of status, while he and Chu Xiao were both inspectors, Chu Xiao's present strength and influence could be said to be the strongest of all the inspectors. Also, in the entire Guanzhong torture room, he was just a nobody. Chu Xiao was the top person of the younger generation in Guanzhong torture room. He had just shown the might of Guanzhong torture room, and was the face of Guanzhong torture room. As for Chu Xiao's strength, he had already experienced it earlier. Although Chu Xiao had suddenly launched a sneak attack, causing him to be unable to react in time due to his hurried defense, he still did not have the confidence to block a few of Chu Xiao's moves if he were to fight head-on. So in this time he could only keep a low profile and see what the family said. The Nine Plains Wei family was a large Guanxi family. Even a disciplinary official like Wei Jiuduan had to treat them politely. They were not people that Chu Xiao could casually humiliate. Chapter 266. After returning to the Jianzhou government, Du Guangzhong and the others hurried over to ask, "Darren, how is it?" Chu Xiao waved his hand and said, "What else can it be?" Wei Jiuduan had received benefits from the Nine Plains Wei clan, so naturally, I couldn't take back my prefecture capital. I could give Wei Jiuduan even more benefits, but the final result would only make Wei Jiuduan's appetite grow bigger and bigger, allowing him to reap the benefits alone. Also, it is just a prefecture government. It is temporarily in Wei Chongling's hands, who says that anyone not in charge of punishment cannot control Guanxi. Speaking of this, Chu Xiao's eyes flashed with coldness. Find some reliable people to monitor the movements of the Nine Plains Wei family. But I suspect that they will not dare to act now. The Nine Plains Wei family had been rooted in the Guanzhong torture room for so many years. They should know the rules of the Guanzhong torture room. Right now, even if Chu Xiao taught Wei Chongling a lesson and humiliated the Nine Plains Wei family, the Nine Plains Wei family would not act against Chu Xiao. They would not even plot against him in secret. The reason was very simple. Chu Xiao had a great influence on him. He had just returned from Eastern Qi and gained fame and power for the Guanzhong torture room. He was the face of the Guanzhong torture room. No matter how powerful the Nine Plains Wei family was, they were just a noble family in the Guanzhong torture ground. Touching Chu Xiao was equivalent to provoking the Guanzhong torture room. That was seeking death. So Chu Xiao guessed that the Wei family would not act. If they did, they would only act after a period of time, after Chu Xiu's power had faded a little. Du Guangzhong and the others nodded. Now that Chu Xiu had returned, they only had to do as he said. Chu Xiu said, "Right, find Patriarch Luo and the others. I have something to say to them." After Du Guangzhong and the others left, they immediately looked for the Luo clan's patriarch and the others and notified them one by one. With Chu Xiu's current status in the Jianzhou prefecture, he basically had the final say. Therefore, when the news of Chu Xiu's arrival spread, the Luo family patriarch and the others immediately put down everything they were doing. Even some patriarchs and sect masters who were cultivating in seclusion immediately came out to see Chu Xiu. 2 days later, everyone had gathered and were waiting obediently in the meeting hall at the entrance of the inspector hall. Seeing Chu Xiu walk in, the people of the Luo family all stood up and said respectfully in a loud voice, "Congratulations to Sir for raising the reputation of Guangzhong at the God Weapon Conference, and entering the top 10 of the Dragon and Tiger Roll." As he spoke, the patriarchs and sect masters present all took out congratulatory gifts and handed them to Chu Xiu. Only now did the factions of the Jianzhou prefecture truly submit to Chu Xiu. The power and influence that Chu Xiu had displayed at the God Weapon Conference was something that they could never achieve in their lifetime. It could be said that the current Chu Xiu was already on a different level from them. And if he continued down this path, Chu Xiu would definitely become the Guangzhong torture room's torture officer, or the head of the arrest bureau in the end. He would be an existence that truly controlled a region, and the youngest one at that. His future could be said to be limitless. Therefore, these people did not have any other thoughts. They could not wait to please Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu waved his hand and let someone take the gifts away. He said, "I appreciate everyone's intentions, but this is not a big deal. The top 10 of the Dragon and Tiger Roll is not the top 10. There is nothing to celebrate. Little Celestial Master Zhang Qingjin has occupied the top 10 of the Dragon and Tiger Roll for 10 years, but I have never seen him in the Celestial Master's mansion celebrating every year." The Luo family patriarch and the others quickly complimented. Official Chu's cultivation time is much shorter than the Little Celestial Master's. In the future, he will definitely reach the same height as the Little Celestial Master. Chu Xiu did not care about the compliments of the people present. He knew his own strength, and he did not need others to flatter him. Therefore, after taking a seat, Chu Xiu went straight to the point. "This time, I have gathered all of you here because I have something to tell you." The Luo family patriarch and the others quickly said, "Official Chu, please speak." Last time, when Chu Xiu had not gained a firm foothold, they were still hesitant. This time, however, they did not dare to hesitate at all. It was as if they would do whatever Chu Xiu said. Chu Xiu said in a low voice, "Everyone, the business in the Jianzhou prefecture has been developing well these past few months, but the Jianzhou prefecture is only so big. This is the end of the business. Have you ever thought of expanding your business to other places?" The Luo family patriarch and the others looked at each other. Of course, they had thought about it, but they were not strong enough. They were all local tyrants in the Jianzhou prefecture. It was not a problem to compete in their own territory, but if they went to other places, they would be suppressed by the local forces. Only a big family like the Ninefold Wei family could cross several prefectures and have business in several places. Seeing everyone's eyes, Chu Xiu said faintly, "I know what you are worried about. It is nothing more than a lack of strength. But don't worry, I will lend some of my people to you. I don't care about normal business competition, but if the local martial arts forces want to use force to cause trouble, I will help you solve it. I only have one request. Right now, you have the cheapest source of goods in your hands, as well as detailed channels. Once you enter the other prefectures, use the fastest speed to destroy their businesses. There is only one goal. The other party can either give up on these businesses, or choose to rely on me." The Luo family patriarch and the others were stunned. What was Chu Xiu going to do? Was he crazy? Was he going to secretly control the entire Guanxi area? In the vast Guanxi area, there were actually only two forces. One was the Guangzhong torture room, and the other was the local martial arts forces like the Luo family. At present, Chu Xiu's strength in the Guanxi branch was almost at the peak. Above him was the penal officer. As long as Wei Jiuduan was still in power, it would not be his turn. Most of the remaining forces were the local martial arts forces. As long as Chu Xiu could completely control them, his power in the Guanxi area would be even greater than Wei Jiuduan's. To put it bluntly, Chu Xiu was suspected of making Wei Jiuduan a figurehead. Looking at everyone present, Chu Xiu said faintly, "Everyone, have you made up your mind? I won't force you. If you want to leave now, you can quit." Everyone present suddenly shivered. Quit? They had already stepped into this hall. Did they still have a chance to quit? Last time in the Phoenix House, Chu Xiu had also given them a chance to quit. In the end, they could not come back after they quit. It was not that he could not return to Chu Xiu's service, but that he could not return to the human world. Therefore, under the leadership of the patriarch of the Luo family, everyone present cupped their fists and said, "We will obey official Chu's orders." Seeing everyone's attitude, Chu Xiu nodded his head in satisfaction. At this moment, Chu Xiu called Du Guangzhong and the others over. As long as they were martial artists above the physical invulnerability realm, so he picked a family to help. After listening to Chu Xiu's plan, Du Guangzhong said hesitantly, "Sir, what we're doing is actually breaking the rules. After all, every inspector has their own jurisdiction. If we go to other prefectures and touch the martial arts forces there, what will happen?" Chu Xiu said calmly, "Rules are dead but people are alive. Inspectors cannot cross the line, but what about the criminal division?" As he said this, Chu Xiu took out his criminal division token and said, "I forgot to tell you. Now I am not only the inspector of Guanxi, but also a 7th grade secret agent of the criminal division. I have the authority to mobilize all secret agents of the criminal division below 7th grade. I will use my identity as a member of the criminal division to ask you to cross the line and help me investigate if the martial arts forces in other prefectures have done anything illegal. Is this still against the rules?" When he said this, the eyes of Du Guangzhong and the others immediately lit up. Even the patriarch of the Luo family and the others felt more confident. The status of the criminal division was known to them. In terms of martial strength, the criminal division was far superior to the people in the punishment hall branch. Also, in terms of status, the criminal division was half a rank higher than the other constables. Now that Chu Xiu had been given the identity of a 7th grade secret agent of the criminal division by Guan Xiyu, it was obvious what kind of status Chu Xiu had in Guan Xiyu's eyes. "Yes, Lord." Du Guangzhong and the others bowed to Chu Xiu and were about to carry out the order. However, at this moment, Chu Xiu suddenly thought of something. He said to Tangya and Yan Bugui, "Both of you be careful. If the constables of the other prefectures come, remember to act appropriately. It will be troublesome if you kill someone." Chu Xiu's secondary goal was the business lifeline of the entire Guanxi. Simply put, he wanted to be the person with the strongest control over the Guanxi after Wei Jiuduan, and not become the enemy of the entire Guanxi. If he killed the other constables in public, it would be very difficult to explain it in front of everyone. Everyone present knew their limits. Chu Xiu was just a little worried about Tangya and Yin Bugui. Although the two of them looked normal, they were the ones who would easily go crazy. Tangya raised his eyebrows and said, "I can't kill the constables, but can I kill the others?" Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "The others can do as they please." Tangya grinned and said, "Then there's no problem. It just so happens that I'm a little bored during this period." Seeing Tangya smile, the Luo family patriarch and the others suddenly felt a chill. At this time, Tangya also looked at the Luo family patriarch and said with a smile, "Senior Luo, your Luo family's business is the largest. It just so happens that I will follow you." The Luo family patriarch quickly said, I dare not. I still have to thank Lord Tang for your help." Among the group of people under Chu Xiu, the Luo family patriarch knew Du Guangzhong and the others. After all, Du Guangzhong and the others had been constables in the Jianzhou prefecture for more than 10 years. However, Tangya and the others who came from the Blue Dragon Society and joined the Guangzhong torture room later were all evil. The Luo family patriarch only hoped that this time, they did not make the wrong choice. Otherwise, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. Chapter 267. In a shop in the Chinzhou prefecture, the Luo clan's patriarch was personally in charge of expanding the Luo clan's business to the Chinzhou prefecture. In fact, he had already handed over most of the Luo family's businesses to his sons to manage. He was only responsible for the general direction, and would not interfere often. However, this matter was personally ordered by Lord Chu Xiu. If it were to succeed, the Luo family's strength would definitely soar. Therefore, the patriarch of the Luo family had to personally take action. The method of invading the businesses of other prefectures was actually very simple. It was just a competition of wealth and strength. The merchant caravans that came and went smuggled some contraband goods. If the aristocratic families of the Qin province spend 100 taels of silver to buy them, I would spend 110 taels of silver. If they wanted to buy something, the Luo clan would be more than willing to pay. After all, the entire Jianzhou prefecture was united. If the Luo clan didn't have something, they could get it from other clans, and the price would be lower than the clans in the Qin prefecture. With the Luo family doing this, the merchants who came and went knew that they could sell their goods at a good price here, and buy good things at a low price. Therefore, in just a few days, the Luo family had completely won over 90% of the merchants who came and went. Although the Luo family earned very little by doing this, and it was even easy for them to lose money in the end, the ones who suffered the most from the smuggling business in the entire Qin State Prefecture were the local martial arts forces in the Qin State Prefecture. When they couldn't take it anymore, they would either take the initiative to admit defeat to the Luo family's patriarch, or they would have to think of other ways to deal with them. The patriarch of the Luo clan had never considered the possibility that the forces of the Qin province would join forces like the Jianzhou province. The patriarch of the Luo family knew very well what these local small forces were like. 100 people had 100 hearts. The Jianzhou prefecture was able to have its current prosperity thanks to Chu Xiu's strong methods. At that moment, Patriarch Luo was not the only one in the shop. Tanya was also there, playing with an exquisite dragon-tailed soul-chasing dart. He looked a little bored. He thought that he would have something to do since he was here. He didn't expect that the local martial arts forces in Chinzhou Prefecture were so cowardly. Not a single one of them did anything. The Luo family ancestor saw that Tanya was a bit bored, so he went over and said with a smile, "Is Sir Tang from the western Chushu land?" Tanya slumped lazily on the chair. He was a little surprised when he heard that. "Huh? How did an old man like you know?" The patriarch of the Luo family didn't care about how Tanya addressed him. Although Tanya was only in the physical invulnerability realm, he was one of Chu Xiu's trusted subordinates. Moreover, he was also an elite assassin of the Blue Dragon Society. If they really fought, he might not be a match for him. Old Ancestor Luo said with a smile, "When I was young, I had also ventured outside. The place I went to the most was Sichuan." Sir Tang must have been in the Central Plains for a long time, but he could still vaguely hear the accent of Sichuan. The land of Sichuan and Shu is filled with outstanding people. Young talents like Lord Tang are not few. Tanya casually waved his hand and said, "All right, don't flatter me. You're referring to official Chu as a young elite. What kind of young elite am I? Sichuan was a place with outstanding people and rich lands, my ass. There was miasma everywhere in the mountains and forests, which could not be compared to the Central Plains. Look at Eastern Qi. It's located in the heart of the Central Plains. It's vast and has everything you want. In Sichuan, if you want these things, you can only rely on yourself." As Tanya chatted with the patriarch of the Luo family, a disciple of the Luo family rushed in and said, "Patriarch, the Zhang family of the Chinzhou prefecture is here." Tanya's eyes lit up. After waiting for so long, they're finally here. However, when Tanya rushed out and saw the people from the Zhang family, he immediately lost interest. He waved his hand and said to the patriarch of the Luo family, "You deal with it." There were more than 10 people from the Zhang family. However, the strongest one was only in the physical invulnerability realm, and he looked weak. Tanya didn't even have the interest to fight. Outside the Luo family's shop, the middle-aged man from the Zhang family looked at the patriarch of the Luo family and said in a deep voice, "The Luo family has crossed the line. This isn't the Jianzhou prefecture, it's the Chinzhou prefecture." The patriarch of the Luo family said indifferently, I only know that this is Guangzhou, and everyone here is from Guangzhou. What, are you going to sell the Qinzhou prefecture to the Zhang family? There were so many aristocratic families and sects in the Qinzhou prefecture, but the Zhang family was the first to jump out. Obviously, they were also pushed out to test the Luo family's intentions. Therefore, the patriarch of the Luo family didn't care. The physical invulnerability realm warrior from the Zhang family snorted. Don't play with words. This time, the Luo family broke the rules. What do you want? The patriarch of the Luo family said indifferently, You should know who the Luo family is working for. As the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. If you know what's good for you and hand over a portion of the family's businesses, then we can all earn money together. The Luo family won't stay in the Qinzhou prefecture for long. However, if you don't know what's good for you, you've seen the consequences. The Qinzhou prefecture is a pile of loose sand. How can you compete with us? The physical invulnerability realm warrior from the Zhang family's expression suddenly changed. In fact, before he came, he had already been worried about whether the Luo family had that person behind them. After all, everyone knew that that person had absolute authority in the Jianzhou prefecture. The Luo family was just a dog under that person's command. Now that this dog suddenly came out and bit people, they couldn't be sure if it was ordered by that person. Actually, it wasn't a big deal to rely on Chu Xiu. If they were in the Jianzhou prefecture, they would also choose to rely on Chu Xiu. However, right now Chu Xiu couldn't control them. What right did they have to show their filial piety to Chu Xiu? As a martial arts force in Guangzhou, it was normal for them to show their filial piety to the inspectors above them. However, they would only give these things to the patrol envoys who were in charge of them, and not to the patrol envoys of other places. No matter how famous Chu Xiu was, he could not control them. Their hands were so long. Let's talk about it when Chu Xiu becomes the disciplinary officer. The warrior from the Zhang family understood the situation. He snorted coldly and said, Ridiculous. I don't care who the Luo family is working for. Rules are rules. From today onwards, the Luo family's shop will disappear from the Qinzhou prefecture. The patriarch of the Luo family waved his hand and said, Beat them up. As soon as he finished speaking, dozens of warriors from the Luo family ran out of the shop and started attacking the people from the Zhang family. The patriarch of the Luo family had expected this. If he didn't use some tricks, how could these people obediently submit to Chu Xiu? In the past, they were even a little dissatisfied with Chu Xiu. It was only because of Chu Xiu's ruthless methods that they chose to submit. Now, although Chu Xiu had both strength and fame, he was still not the penal officer. His influence was so great that the forces in other prefectures wouldn't be dissatisfied. The warriors from the Luo family were stronger than the warriors from the Zhang family. After a quarter of an hour, the people from the Zhang family couldn't hold on anymore, and had to retreat. The people from the Zhang family left in a sorry state. One of the disciples asked, Master, what should we do now? The physical invulnerability master of the Zhang family snorted and said, What should we do? Go and find Lord Jiang Taoren, of course. The Zhang family has been sending gifts to the inspector's hall all these years. Now that the Luo family has crossed the line, who will take care of it if he doesn't? If he can't take care of it, then we'll just admit defeat, and give a part of our family's income to Chu Xiu in exchange for our safety. You're an inspector. If you can't even protect your own forces and allow others to meddle, why should we give you so much? At this moment, Jiang Taoren happened to be in the inspector's hall of the Qinzhou prefecture. He was calculating his income for this month. Jiang Taoren was a cautious and cunning person. Previously, he only had one prefecture under his command. Among the inspectors in Guangxi, he was considered one of the weaker ones. However, he managed to take away one of Wei Hanshan's prefectures through the conflict between Wei Hanshan and Chu Xiu. His methods could be considered sharp. At this moment, his subordinate reported that the master of the Zhang family wanted to see him. Let him in, Jiang Taoren said calmly. The Qinzhou prefecture used to be Wei Hanshan's territory. However, after Jiang Taoren took over, there weren't any obstacles. Guangxi had its own rules. In the past, everyone acted according to the rules. Basically, no one was like Chu Xiu, who insisted on stirring up trouble. Therefore, when Jiang Taoran took over the Qinzhou prefecture, everything went smoothly. For the local aristocratic families, it was just a change of filial piety. However, when the master of the Zhang family came in, Jiang Taoran frowned and said, "Master Zhang, who did you fight with? Why are you in such a sorry state? Although I'm the inspector of the Qinzhou prefecture, I can't intervene in the disputes between your families. I'm afraid you found the wrong person this time." Jiang Taoran thought that the master of the Zhang family had come to him because of some internal strife in the Qinzhou prefecture. However, Jiang Taoran would never agree to this. As the inspector, he was born to oppose these people. The deeper the conflicts between the aristocratic families in the prefecture, the easier it would be for him to manage. On the contrary, it would be troublesome if the aristocratic families were united. The master of the Zhang family quickly said, "It's not about the Qinzhou prefecture. It's about the Jianzhou prefecture's Luo family and Chu Xiu. They don't follow the rules. My lord, you have to uphold justice for us this time." Then the master of the Zhang family told Jiang Taoran everything that had happened. After hearing this, Jiang Taoran's expression immediately changed. He fiercely slammed the table and shouted, "Chu Xiu, what are you trying to do?" They had seen how Wei Jiuduan had deducted the reward he deserved, and how the Nine Plains Wei family had provoked him. However, they had only been there to watch the show. In the end, only a few days had passed, and Chu Xiu had actually gone crazy to the point of touching his interests. What exactly was Chu Xiu trying to do? They had never provoked him. Chapter 268. In all fairness, Jiang Taoran did not want to be enemies with Chu Xiu. This was the case when Chu Xiu was still in the physical invulnerability realm, and had just been appointed as an inspector. Jiang Taoran had always been a cautious person. Chu Xiu was recommended to the Guanzhong torture room by Chu Yuanqing. With Chu Yuanqing behind him, there was no reason for him to offend Chu Xiu. Therefore, he sat on the sidelines and watched the tigers fight. When Chu Xiu and Wei Hanshan were locked in a fierce battle, he secretly took action and paid a small price to get Wei Hanshan's Qinzhou prefecture from Wei Jiuduan. Now that Chu Xiu had reached the Three-Flower Realm and was famous in Jianghu during the God Weapon Conference, it could be said that he was the face of the Guanzhong torture room. Jiang Taoran did not want to provoke Chu Xiu at all. However, he did not want to provoke Chu Xiu. Unfortunately, Chu Xiu had come to provoke him. He did not provoke anyone, but Chu Xiu had extended his hand into his territory. How could Jiang Taoran tolerate this? If he tolerated it, his reputation in the two prefectures under his command would be completely destroyed. Therefore, Jiang Taoran coldly snorted and said, "Wait, I will take my men to check it out." With that, Jiang Taoran took his men and went straight to the Luo family's shop. At this time, when the Luo family saw that Jiang Taoran had personally appeared, the Luo family's great ancestor quickly said to Tangya, "Master Tang, I will leave the rest to you." The Luo family could easily make a move against the Zhang family, but against Jiang Taoran, an inspector of the Guanzhong torture room, he did not dare to make a move. Many warriors were watching in front of the Luo family's shop. Almost all of them were sent by some local martial arts forces in the Qinzhou prefecture. They had long been aware of the Luo family's actions, but they did not act rashly. Instead, they enticed the Zhang family, who were the first to lose their cool, to make a move. They wanted to see what the Luo family's confidence was, and what Chu Xiu's intentions were. Now that Jiang Taoran was here, the matter would soon be resolved. The Luo clan's patriarch chuckled as he personally went out to welcome Jiang Chen. He cupped his fists and said, "Why didn't you inform me in advance that Lord Jiang was coming? I apologize for not going out to meet you." Jiang Taoran waved his hand and said coldly, "Don't talk nonsense with me. What does Chu Xiu mean by extending his hand so far?" Of course, the Luo family patriarch wouldn't say that it was Chu Xiu's idea in public. He just smiled and said, "I'm afraid Lord Jiang has misunderstood. This has nothing to do with official Chu. Can't the Luo family do business elsewhere?" Jiang Taoran sneered and said, "Fine, fine, fine. You won't say anything, right? All right, I'll ask Chu Xiu to personally come to the Qinzhou prefecture to ask for him." As he spoke, Jiang Taoran directly barked. Seal all the Luo clan's shops for me. I suspect that the Luo family is involved in the smuggling of contraband goods. Seize them immediately. At this moment, Tanya leisurely sauntered out from inside and said lightly, Who said that the Luo family smuggled contraband goods? I've just finished investigating, and it's pure nonsense. Jiang Taoran narrowed his eyes as he looked at Tanya. He recognized Tanya. This person was one of Chu Xiu's trusted subordinates. In the past, he was also an assassin from the Blue Dragon Society. The Jianzhou constable came to my Chenzhou prefecture to meddle in other people's business. Does Chu Xiu not care about the rules? This is simply nonsense. Tanya said unhurriedly. There's something I forgot to tell you, Lord Jiang. My lord has already been promoted to a 7th grade secret agent by Hall Master. I'm not here as a Jianzhou constable from the Jianzhou Prefecture's patrol hall. I've received orders from official Chu of the Jianzhou Prefecture's patrol hall. There's a big difference between the two. According to my investigation, there's nothing wrong with the Luo family. On the contrary, I suspect that the Zhang family might be involved in the smuggling of contraband goods. Therefore, I hope that Lord Jiang can assist in the investigation and not obstruct me. As soon as this was said, Jiang Taoran's face instantly darkened. He hadn't told anyone that Chu Xiu had actually become a secret agent of the Jianzhou Prefecture's arrest hall. However, this matter was reasonable. After all, Chu Xiu had gained face for the Guanzhong torture room, and made such a great contribution. Hall Master Guan wasn't as short-sighted as Wei Jioduan. He would definitely give Chu Xiu a reward that he deserved. Therefore, Tanya wouldn't lie to him about this matter. Tanya had said this in front of everyone. If he lied, Chu Xiu would also be in trouble. However, the thorny problem now was Chu Xiu's identity. In terms of the Guanzhong torture room system, the arrest hall was half a level higher than the patrol hall and torture hall branches of the various regions. It had always been the various torture hall branches cooperating with the arrest hall to investigate certain matters. The arrest hall had never cooperated with other people's investigations. Right now, Chu Xiu was using the tiger's skin as a flag. Tanya was his subordinate, but he was using his identity as a member of the arrest hall to make a fuss. Although this was just a game of words, it was in accordance with the Guanzhong torture room's rules. At this time, one of Jiang Taoran's subordinates didn't understand the situation. Everyone else was keeping a low profile as they watched the situation unfold. Only he stood out to show his loyalty. He shouted at Tanya. How dare you? How dare you speak to Lord Jiang like this? You don't know your place. As he spoke, the physical invulnerability realm martial artist actually rushed towards Tanya, wanting to take him down to apologize to Jiang Taoran. Seeing this scene, Jiang Taoran secretly cursed him for being an idiot. Since they hadn't made a move yet, there was still room for negotiation with Chu Xiu. But once they made a move, he would definitely have to face off against Chu Xiu. Looking at the martial artist rushing towards him, the corner of Tanya's mouth curled into a disdainful sneer. After resting for such a long time, in the end, this kind of trash came to give him some exercise? It really was a little unpleasant. In the instant that the martial artist rushed forward with his sword, Tanya's figure moved. His body was like an arrow released from a bow, and in the blink of an eye, he had already appeared in front of the martial artist. 2 slender daggers appeared in his hands, and he slashed them down. The sharp blade aura directly shattered the martial artist's protective chi, causing him to hurriedly withdraw his sword in defense. But at this moment, a golden light flashed in Tanya's hand. A slender dragon tail soul hunting dart, under the control of Tanya's gang energy, had actually shot towards the martial artist's back. Being attacked from both front and back, the martial artist could only forcefully activate all the gang energy in his body to block the dragon tail soul hunting dart behind him. However, he was directly sent flying by Tanya's twin daggers, and he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. Impudent! Jiang Taoran roared angrily, and directly slammed his palm towards Tanya. The palm force was incomparably vigorous, and the surrounding gang energy actually had a faint suction force. Tanya's figure actually involuntarily crashed towards Jiang Taoran. Originally, Jiang Taoran didn't want to make a move, but that idiot attacked without permission, messing up Jiang Taoran's plan. Even if that martial artist was an idiot, he was still his subordinate. But now, in front of everyone, he was beaten by Tanya to the point of vomiting blood in a few moves. If he didn't make a move, where would he put his face? At this time, seeing Jiang Taoran make a move, there was no fear in Tanya's eyes, and there was even a faint hint of excitement. Assassins from the Blue Dragon Society were all elites among those of the same level. When Tanya was in the physical invulnerability realm, there was almost no one in the same level who could match him. When carrying out a mission, it was very common for him to fight one against many. Of course, it was only a few people, and it was not abnormal like Chu Xiu, who could fight one against 100. However, Tanya had never fought against a martial artist in the Three-Flower realm, and now he wanted to give it a try. Facing Jiang Taoran's palm, more than 10 golden lights flashed around Tanya's body, and at the same time, more than 10 dragon-tail soul-hunting darts shot out. However, strangely, they didn't shoot straight towards Jiang Taoran. Instead, they flew all over the sky with the support of gang energy, like a large net, piercing towards Jiang Taoran's major acupoints. Jiang Taoran coldly snorted. After all, he was a martial artist in the Three-Flower realm, and the density of his gang energy was far beyond Tanya's imagination. As he slapped with both palms, he directly blasted away all of Tanya's dragon-tail soul-hunting dart with his own powerful gang energy. However, at this time, Tanya's figure fluttered like willow catkins. It was very strange. As his figure danced, countless silver needles scattered around him, like pear blossoms in a storm. There was no end to them. Jiang Taoran was also shocked by this scene. Could it be that this person was carrying some kind of hidden weapon with him? If he shot out so many hidden weapons with gang energy, just how terrifying was this person's control of gang energy? All of you break? Jiang Taoran roared angrily. He put his palms together and slowly pushed them out. It seemed clumsy, but his gang energy was as indestructible as a mountain. Although the silver needles were densely packed, they were all bounced away wherever he passed. However, at this moment, a dazzling golden light bloomed in Tanya's hands. The hilts of the two short knives in his hands connected, forming something like a moon. It shone with an incomparable sharpness as it slashed toward Jiang Taoran. It was an extremely sharp force without any impurities. It was a sharp force formed by condensing and compressing gang energy to the extreme. Someone had once told Tanya that the path of hidden weapons took a strange path. However, those who were able to cultivate this path to great success would be able to interweave the truth and strangeness. They would be upright and aboveboard. When a hidden weapon was shot out, the opponent could only take it head-on. Just like this saber strike of his, Tanya had practically treated himself as a hidden weapon and blasted it out. Even Jiang Taoran was shocked by the sharpness of that moment. He immediately erupted all his gang energy. His hand formed a fist seal, and the gang energy in front of him instantly became incomparably viscous. Tanya's knife was placed horizontally in the middle, stagnant, but it was already less than a foot away from Jiang Taoran. With a loud bang, Jiang Taoran's gang energy was shattered. Tanya's two short knives were directly blasted away. His figure also rapidly retreated, his face slightly pale. Jiang Taoran, who stood opposite him, although his expression was normal, was extremely gloomy. Just now he had used all his strength to block Tanya's knife. If he had relaxed even a little, it was very likely that he would have been injured just now. In terms of status and strength, Tanya was a junior, but in the end he did not gain the slightest advantage in the hands of this junior. What kind of monsters were Chu Xiu's subordinates? Good. Very good. Chu Xiu has broken the rules. I won't talk nonsense with a junior like you. When the time comes, I will personally find Chu Xiu and explain it to him. After saying that, Jiang Taoran directly led his people away. Behind him, Tanya revealed a trace of a smile, but that smile was filled with disdain. Chapter 269. Jiang Taoran returned in defeat from the Chun state government. The same thing happened in the other state governments. The sects and aristocratic families of the Jianzhou government and Chu Xiu's subordinates acted to deal with the local martial arts factions. As long as the local inspectors came out to stop them, Chu Xiu's subordinates would bring up the identity of a member of the criminal division. It had to be said that Chu Xiu's identity as a member of the Criminal Investigations Division was quite useful, at least in terms of the rules. Although everyone knew that Chu Xiu was deliberately looking for trouble by extending his reach so far, this was still in line with the rules. Therefore, after such a thing happened, Jiang Taoran sent a message to the other inspectors, preparing to discuss this matter. In the meeting hall of the Chun state government, Feng Hua, Situ Xing, Jiang Taoran, Wei Chongling and Yang Ling gathered. Situ Xing snorted. Lawless. This was simply lawless. Who does Chu Xiu think he is? Does he really think that just because he has some fame outside and made some contributions to the hall chief, he can be unbridled? Situ Xing and Feng Hua were the angriest. In terms of strength, they were at the 5 energies returning to the origin realm, and were stronger than Chu Xiu. In terms of experience, they were veterans of the Guanzhong torture room, and had been in Guanxi longer than Wei Jiuduan. Previously, Chu Xiu had made these contributions for the Guanzhong torture room, and they had been very polite to Chu Xiu. But they had not expected Chu Xiu to take advantage of them, and stretch his hand so far that it was already at their doorstep. Wei Chongling sat at the side and sneered. Chu Xiu is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant, a very impetuous person. Right now he is just an inspector and is so arrogant after making some contributions. When his foundation in Guanxi deepens, I fear that he will be riding on our necks. At this time, Wei Chongling was very happy. Last time he had been humiliated by Chu Xiu in front of the Guanxi branch. None of these people had stood up to help him. They had all silently watched the show. But now Chu Xiu is also bullying you. This time, I want to see what you can do. Jiang Taoran snorted and said. Now that Chu Xiu has already done it, what's the use of scolding him here? Most importantly, he has the identity of a member of the criminal division. If we make a move on him, we'll be seen as breaking the rules. At this point, Jiang Taoran and the others felt aggrieved. It was Chu Xiu who had broken the rules and stretched his hand so far. In the end, they couldn't do anything about it. Sometimes, the rules of the Guanzhong torture room were something that even the inspectors could not help but criticize in their hearts. They were all from the Guanzhong torture room, and their strength was the same. Why was the status of the narcotics department higher than theirs by half a rank? Their treatment was also better? Of course, they had neglected one point. The narcotics department was involved in the business of killing people, while they were only responsible for stabilizing the forces in their respective jurisdictions. At this time, Feng Hua suddenly turned his gaze to Yang Ling, who had not spoken, and said, Yang Ling, now you and I are both inspectors. What Chu Xiu did is also our interests. You are Wei Daren's adopted son. Why don't you report this matter to Wei Daren and let him punish Chu Xiu? Hearing this, Yang Ling sneered in his heart. Feng Hua, this old fellow, really thought that he was an idiot. He wanted him to be the first to act. Not to mention that he would not report this matter to Wei Jiuduan. Yang Ling would record every word they said here today, and have someone send it to Chu Xiu. Facing everyone's gaze, Yang Ling spread his hands helplessly and said, Everyone, don't look at me like this. Don't you know Ifu's character? If Chu Xiu touches Ifu's interests, then Ifu will take care of it. But now this is an internal matter of us inspectors. Do you think Ifu will stand on our side? Also, Chu Xiu has just gained face for our Guanzhong torture room in Jianghu. He can be said to have come with great momentum. Even Ifu is not willing to offend Chu Xiu right now. You all saw what happened to Wei Daren at the gates of the torture hall branch a few days ago. Did Ifu act? He did not even show his face. I do not want to touch Ifu's bad luck. If you want to go, then go. In any case, I will not go. As he spoke, Yang Ling spread his hands and put on an expression of a dead pig not afraid of boiling water. On the other side, Wei Chongling's face darkened. The most embarrassing thing in his life was being humiliated by Chu Xiu in front of everyone. But now, Yang Ling mentioned it again in front of him. Feng Hua frowned and said, This won't do and that won't do. Are we just going to let Chu Xiu touch our interests? At the side, Jiang Taoran gritted his teeth and said, Of course not. Even Wei Jiuduan has to follow the rules. What right does Chu Xiu have to do? Let's all go to the Jianzhou government together. At worst, we will make a big fuss. I want to see if Wei Darren will care after this matter is made big. Everyone present nodded. Now that things had come to this, they could only do this. Yang Ling also nodded his head, but there was a trace of mysteriousness in his eyes. After everyone had dispersed, he immediately wrote down everything that everyone had said, and arranged for people to quickly send it to the Jianzhou government. Not mentioning that Chu Xiu still had a handle on him. He now understood that following Chu Xiu would definitely have a better future than Wei Jiuduan. Wei Jiuduan was already old. After he retired, the tea would cool after he left. How many benefits could he give him? On the other hand, Chu Xiu was like the sun in the sky right now. The Guanzhong torture room looked at ability and qualifications, but the most important thing was still strength. Right now Chu Xiu was already in the top 10 of the Longhu roll. How far could Chu Xiu go in the future? In any case, from Yang Ling's point of view, Chu Xiu's future achievements would definitely far surpass Wei Jiuduan and everyone present. Since that was the case, he would definitely stand on Chu Xiu's side wholeheartedly. What was the point of messing around with this group of short-sighted people? In the Jianzhou government, Chu Xiu immediately received the news from Yang Ling. He smiled and directly crushed the secret letter with his true qi. He could almost guess the reaction of these people. Although they were all angry, they did not want to fall out with him. Since that was the case, it would be much easier to handle. The next day, Jiang Taoran and the other 4 people came to the door aggressively, causing the Jianghu constables who were guarding the door of the Jianzhou government to shiver. Chu Xiu laughed and walked out saying, "You guys are so busy. How do you have the time to stroll around my Jianzhou government today?" Jiang Taoran said coldly, "Chu Xiu, don't you know why we are here? You have reached so far. This time, you have broken the rules of our Guanxi region." Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "Don't worry, Master Jiang. Come in and talk. Standing at the door and letting people watch is beneath your dignity." When Jiang Taoran and the others saw Chu Xiu's indifferent appearance as if nothing had happened, they were also angry in their hearts. However, they did not want to fall out with Chu Xiu here, so they did not say much. After inviting everyone into a meeting hall, Chu Xiu slowly asked his men to serve tea. After taking a sip of tea, he said slowly, "You guys are angry because I asked the aristocratic families of the Jianzhou government to steal business from other state capitals?" Feng Hua snorted and said, "You still know? Chu Xiu, from the time you entered the Guanxi region, I have not provoked you. But now you have reached so far and touched our interests. What do you mean by this? Do you really think you can be lawless because you made a contribution to the Guanzhong torture room and left an impression on the hall chief?" Chu Xiu glanced at Wei Changling and said coolly, "I do not mean that. But official Feng, you should know that nothing in this world is absolutely fair. You also said that I, Chu Xiu, fought outside and made meritorious service for the Guanzhong torture hall, but in the end, someone stole what should have belonged to me. Tell me, who should I go to seek justice?" Wei Changling's expression darkened. Chu Xiu's words were clearly directed at him. Wei Changling snorted coldly and slapped the table. "Chu Xiu, it was official Wei's order to appoint me as the inspector. If you do not accept it, go reason with official Wei. Why are you pointing at me in such a strange way?" Chu Xiu looked coldly at Wei Changling. His eyes were like deep pools. In a flash, the power of the soul-moving art was unleashed and pulled in Wei Changling's mental power. With Wei Changling's present strength, he could not stop Chu Xiu's soul-moving art. In his mind, countless ghosts and ghosts leapt at him and tore at his body. The pain was so real that Wei Changling grunted and broke out in a cold sweat. Right now Jiang Taoran and the others were working together to threaten Chu Xiu. They could not watch as Chu Xiu was so arrogant. The strongest, Feng Hua and Situ Xing, released their powerful energies and shouted at Chu Xiu. "Chu Xiu, what do you want to do? If you want to fight, we will keep you company." Their energies exploded. If Chu Xiu did not stop, the two of them would definitely stop him. Seeing the two interfere, Chu Xiu withdrew his soul-moving art. But Wei Changling seemed to have been fished out of the water. His head was covered in cold sweat, and his gaze at Chu Xiu was filled with terror. Last time, when he had vomited blood from Chu Xiu's great Vajrawil seal, he knew he was not a match for Chu Xiu. In a head-on fight, He would not be able to block a few moves from Chu Xiu. Now he knew he had overestimated himself last time. In a head-on fight, he could not even block one move from Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu slowly picked up a teacup and took a sip before saying, "I do not want to fight. I just want to teach this idiot a lesson. Tell him what is reverence. Do not think that just because you and I are inspectors, you qualify to be on equal footing with me. Back at the God Weapon Conference, I killed more than 1 or 2 3-flower realm martial practitioners. With your strength, you dare to slap the table and shout at me. Are you worthy?" Chapter 270. Chu Xiu's sudden attack caused Feng Hua and Situ Xing's eyes to be filled with a look of fear. On one hand, they were afraid of Chu Xiu's arrogant and temperamental attitude. At the same time, they were also afraid of Chu Xiu's strength. The two of them were veteran practitioners of the 5 Qis unifying to the origin realm. Having stayed in the Guanzhong Disciplinary Hall for such a long time, they had accumulated some experience. However, Chu Xiu's mysterious great technique of extinguishing the heavens and destroying the earth and soul shifting had left a deep impression on them. The moment they saw Chu Xiu's attack, they wondered if they could block Chu Xiu's move if they were in his place. Both Situ Xing and Feng Hua were somewhat uncertain about this. In the past, Situ Xing and Feng Hua didn't have any understanding of the top 10 martial artists on the Longhu list. After all, they rarely came out of their seclusion. But now they could be considered to have seen it for themselves. For an existence at the level of Chu Xiu, it didn't seem difficult to kill someone at a higher level. In particular, the gap between the 3-flower realm and the 5 Qis toward the origin stage wasn't that big. At least, it was much smaller than the gap between the physical invulnerability stage and the 3-flower realm. At this time, Yang Ling stood up to smooth things over and said, "Everyone, we're all here to discuss things. Why do you have to be so hostile? It's not good for anyone, isn't it?" Hearing Yang Ling's words, Feng Hua and Situ Xing seemed to have found a way out. They snorted coldly and sat back down. Jiang Taoren seemed to have been shocked by Chu Xiu's attack just now. His tone softened a little as he said, "Lord Chu, just like what Yang Ling said just now. We came here with the attitude of discussing things. What exactly do you intend to do this time? Although you haven't been in the Guanxi area for long, you should know the rules here. What you're doing now is obviously breaking the rules. I'm afraid it's a little inappropriate to oppose us for a little profit." Chu Xiu waved his hand and said, "Everyone, you keep saying that I've affected your interests. In that case, I'd like to ask, how much did the martial arts influences under your jurisdiction give you? Was it as much as my Jianzhou prefecture?" Everyone present looked at each other. Jiang Taoren said a little awkwardly, "Well, of course not. After all, we don't have official Chu's means. Currently, in the entire Guanxi region, apart from the prefectures under Chu Xiu who completely obeyed his orders and the martial arts factions under him who did not dare to be disloyal, the other martial arts factions in the prefectures actually appeared to be in harmony with the local patrol hall. To put it simply, they would give a certain amount of filial piety to the inspector hall every month. At the same time, the inspector hall had to turn a blind eye to their smuggling of contraband. Sometimes, they even had to provide some convenience for them. In general, as long as these inspectors were not as stubborn as Chu Xiu's predecessor, Feng Jingyuan, they were living a good life. Of course, they couldn't be compared with Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu had directly received a share of the profits from the local martial arts influences in Jianzhou Prefecture. In Jianzhou Prefecture, his words were absolute. This made the other patrol envoys very jealous. Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, "Everyone, I have indeed interfered in the affairs of other prefectures. However, I did not interfere in the affairs of your patrol hall. Instead, I interfered in the business of the local pugilistic world. You said that I took away your profits, but what if I can guarantee that you get more profits?" Jiang Taoren frowned and said, "What do you mean?" Chu Xiu said lightly, "What I mean is very simple. You don't have to accept the filial piety of the local martial arts forces in the state governments under your command. Just pretend that you can't do anything to me. As long as you don't intervene, those martial arts forces will be at my mercy. Of course, I wouldn't go overboard. Whatever I did in the Jianzhou Prefecture, they would do the same over there. Similarly, they would have to give me a portion of their respective smuggling businesses. As for the part they give me, I won't take it for myself. We'll split it evenly. Chu Xiu pointed to himself and said, I'll take 60%, and you take 40%. Jiang Taoran's eyes widened when he heard that. How could he do that? In fact, Chu Xiu's move was very simple. Didn't these local martial arts forces think that Chu Xiu couldn't do anything to them because of the rules of Guanxi? Well, let the inspectors behind them admit defeat first and take the lead. In this way, how many people would have the guts to be stubborn? This was like a story from Chu Xiu's previous life. When a local official wanted to collect taxes, he would first join forces with the local gentry. Only when the gentry paid the taxes honestly would the other people follow suit. After that, the gentry would return the money in full. The money of the people would be divided 30% to 70%. The gentry would get 70%, and the local official would get 30%. Of course, when it came to Chu Xiu, the rules had to be changed. He would get the bigger share, and the others would get the smaller share. However, Chu Xiu was quite kind. He would get 60%, and the others would get 40%. However, even this 40% was more than what the martial arts forces had given them in the past. Looking at the people present, Chu Xiu said in a deep voice, Everyone, you said that I've affected your interests. Now, not only have I not affected your interests, but I can also increase your interests. You don't want to fall out, and I don't want to either. So I have put the solution in front of you. Tell me, do you agree or not? The people present had conflicted expressions. Of course, Wei Changling would never agree. His identity as the Guanxi inspector was secondary. His main identity was a member of the Zhu Wei family. He had to consider the interests of the Zhu Wei family first. But just now he had experienced Chu Xiu's power, so he did not dare to speak now. Jiang Taoran and the others had thoughtful expressions. While Chu Xiu's words sounded nice and they would receive more benefits than before, it was not as if they did not pay anything. According to Chu Xiu, the price they had to pay was very simple, and that was prestige. By doing so, it was equivalent to them taking the initiative to admit defeat in front of Chu Xiu and no longer caring about the local martial arts forces. In this way, Chu Xiu's power in the Guanxi region would definitely increase greatly, but their reputation in the local martial arts forces would at least be below Chu Xiu's. If they did not agree, they would have to fall out with Chu Xiu. If they agreed, while they could gain benefits, they would also lose a part of their reputation. This was really a difficult choice. But at this moment, Yang Ling suddenly stood up and said, I agree to official Chu's conditions. Jiang Taoran and the rest looked at Yang Ling with surprise on their faces. There was also some anger on their faces. Before they came, everyone had agreed that they would advance and retreat together. But now, Yang Ling suddenly changed his mind and was the first to agree. What did he mean? Facing everyone's gaze, Yang Ling smiled bitterly and said, Everyone, it has been a long time since we joined the Guanzhong torture room. All these years, even if we don't have any merits, we have worked hard. However, everyone knows about the salary of the torture chamber. It is really a little pitiful. So to be honest, as inspectors, we must definitely put money first. You are not afraid, but I am still in the physical invulnerability realm. If I don't prepare more resources, how will I break through to the three-flower realm? You all know my godfather's character. I won't be able to get any cultivation resources from him, so now I can only think of a way. Official Chu is the #1 person in the younger generation of the Guanzhong torture room. He also represents the Guanzhong torture room in the martial arts world. He is now ranked 6th in Longhu. It is not embarrassing to admit defeat in front of such a person. I, Yang Ling, don't care about a little reputation. The key is to get the benefits first. So everyone, I'm sorry. Regardless of whether you agree or not, I am ready to agree. Yang Ling's words also made Jiang Taoran and the others fall into deep thought. Just as Yang Ling said, while they were still in the Guanzhong torture room plotting for a little profit, Chu Xiu had already made a name for himself in the martial arts world. Moreover, with Chu Xiu's current age and strength, it was certain that he would be in a high position in the future. At the very least, his progress would be much faster than theirs. At that time, they might still be inspectors, but Chu Xiu would already be a torture officer or the head of the criminal division. With benefits in front of them, why should they offend Chu Xiu for a little worthless reputation? After thinking it through, Jiang Taoren gritted his teeth and said, "Official Chu, I am also willing to agree to your conditions." Anyway, he admitted that he was not as good as Chu Xiu. Moreover, the benefits that Chu Xiu gave him did not make him suffer a loss. Therefore, Jiang Taoren also smoothly agreed. Seeing that 2 of the 5 people had already agreed, Feng Hua and Situ Xing looked at each other and sighed. We also agree to official Chu's conditions. Feng Hua and Situ Xing's age was not considered old, but they were not considered young either. They had already passed the prime of their life. In this lifetime, they should not be able to step into the realm of the unity of man and nature. As long as Chu Xiu did not die and did not die prematurely, it was almost certain that he would step into the realm of the unity of man and nature in the future. Although they were not considered old now, in front of people like Chu Xiu, they were already considered old. Since Jiang Taoren and Yang Ling had already agreed, what else could they insist on? They did not want to save up a lot of money, but in the end, they would not have the life to spend it. Just like their colleague, Kai Jingsheng, who had been running around for most of his life. When he was young, he was even more desperate. He even joined the criminal division as a secret agent for a period of time. What was the result? In the end, he still ended up with a serious injury. In the end, he sold off all the money he had accumulated over the years to find the divine doctor of the Jianghu, Yama Fengbuping, to treat him. Seeing 4 of the 5 people agree, Wei Chongling was dumbfounded. What was he supposed to say? But Chu Xiu did not intend to waste words with Wei Chongling. He said coldly, Wei Chongling, you do not need to agree or disagree. You can choose to spread what I said today to other Jianghu forces. This is all up to you. But at that time, you will be touching the interests of the entire Guanxi branch. I fear that I do not need to act. The people present will make sure that you have no place in the Guanxi branch. Chapter 271. With Yang Ling as a spy, Chu Xiu's words caused the other inspectors present to stand on his side. Chu Xiu wanted authority in the Guanxi region, while the others wanted benefits. There was no conflict between the two. The only one who had a conflict with him was Wei Chongling. But now that the situation was set, Wei Chongling could not cause any trouble. Everyone present looked towards Wei Chongling. The pressure made Wei Chongling not dare to say anything, or even retort. Wei Chongling glared hatefully at the people present. In the end, he could only say, all right, since you have decided, do not regret it. Finishing, Wei Chongling turned and left. The arm could not twist the thigh. This matter was not something he could control. If Chu Xiu wanted to dominate Guanxi, the Nine Plains Wei family would be the first to not agree. Chu Xiu looked at the people present and said with a smile, just a small trouble. Everyone, do not worry. Do not worry, as long as you pretend to be deaf and dumb during this time, and do not care about the affairs of your prefectures. A month later, you will receive more things. Feng Hua and the others helplessly nodded their heads. Since they have already agreed to Chu Xiu's conditions, they naturally don't need to think too much about it. After the discussion, everyone directly bid farewell and left. On the surface, Yang Ling wanted to return to his Shangzhou government, but after a round, he returned to the Jianzhou government's hall. Congratulations, official. If this matter succeeds in the future, you will be the most powerful inspector in Guanxi after Wei Jieduan. Yang Ling said respectfully to Chu Xiu. In front of other people he was an inspector on equal footing with Chu Xiu, but in front of Chu Xiu he did not forget his identity. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, there is still the last hurdle. It is not so easy. Just watch, some people are fated to cause trouble. Yang Ling said hesitantly, you mean Wei Chongling? Do you need us to deal with him in secret? Killing a colleague without permission was a taboo in the Guanzhong torture room. But Chu Xiu had already done such a thing more than once. Even Yang Ling was a little used to it, so it was not a big deal to do it again. Chu Xiu shook his head and said, Wei Chongling is just a minor character. If we kill Wei Chongling, the Nine Plains Wei family can push out another Wei Chongling. Yang Ling frowned and said, "Then does Sir mean to directly attack the Nine Plains Wei family?" Chu Xiu said indifferently, "That day will come. However, it is not now. Now we will have to see what attitude that foster father of yours has." Hearing that, Yang Ling could not help but reveal a disdainful smile. He had served his foster father for so many years, how could he not know his character? He had really been blind back then. He had really thought that he had managed to latch onto Wei Juduan's thigh. In the end, it was a thigh that was completely stingy. After Wei Chongling left the Jianzhou government, he did not return to his own government, but headed straight for the Nine Plains Wei family. The Nine Plains Wei family was in the Nine Plains government at the border of Guangdong and Guangxi. However, it was not in the government, but outside the government in a sizable manner. The patriarch of the Wei family had the power of the five energies towards Yuan, comparable to an inspector like Feng Hua, and more than one. The one who truly gave the Wei family such a status was the Wei family's ancestor. He was a great expert who was one with the world, but he was not young. It was said that he was of the same generation as Wei Juduan, but he had long since stopped fighting. He only stayed in the Wei family to cultivate his character and intimidate the small fries. At this time, Wei Chongling returned directly to the Wei family. The Wei family disciples who came and went did not have very respectful expressions when they saw him. The Wei family was a large family in Guangzhou. At their peak, the family had even produced martial grandmasters. But later on, they declined slightly. So the Wei family did not fear the Guangzhou torture room like the other martial sects in Guangzhou. They could not bear to throw their direct disciples into the Guangzhou torture room. Wei Chongling was a branch disciple, but he was one of the more outstanding of the branch disciples. Walking to the door of the Wei family residence, Wei Chongling bowed and said, "Wei Chongling requests an audience with the patriarch." The Wei family disciple guarding the door reported, and then led Wei Chongling in. The patriarch of the Wei family, Wei Mok, was a middle-aged man with scholarly features. However, he had a dignified expression and was much more imposing than forefather Luo and the others. This was the foundation of the Wei family. While the Wei family had declined, they still had the rules of a large family. What is it? But what trouble did Chu Xiu cause? Didn't I tell you last time that Chu Xiu is in the limelight right now? Do not provoke him for now. The higher you stand, the worse you will fall. We only need to watch quietly, watch him rise, watch his building collapse. That is enough. Wei Mok spoke unhurriedly with a carefree look on his face. In these years, there had been inspectors and even a few torture officers who had wanted to make trouble for the Wei family. The result? The inspectors flowed like water, the Wei family made of iron. The Wei family had established themselves in Guangzhou even earlier than the history of the Guangzhou torture room. Those inspectors and torture officers had disappeared long ago. The Wei family still stood here. It could be said that from the beginning, the Wei family did not think much of Chu Xiu. Wei Chongling said with grief and indignation, "Family master, this time, I did not provoke Chu Xiu. Chu Xiu is ambitious and wants to swallow all the businesses in Guangxi. This is destroying the foundation of the Wei family. The smuggling business was so large that the Wei family had naturally done it before." When Wei Chongling recounted everything to Wei Mok in detail, Wei Mok's face darkened, and he faintly felt anger. The Wei family had been in Guangzhou for so long, but had never seen such an arrogant inspector. Wei Mok waved his hand and said, "All right, you do not need to worry about this matter. I will handle it personally." Wei Chongling sighed in relief and left. After sending Wei Chongling away, Wei Mok went to the backyard of the Wei family. While this was only a yard, it was half the size of the Wei family. There were all kinds of spirit flowers and herbs planted here, and the spirit energy was dense. At this time, in the center of the backyard, an old man dressed in white robes was meditating on a meditation mat. His aura was restrained to the extreme, as though he was a dead person. When Wei Mok walked in, the old man opened his eyes. A sharp light shone out and he said coolly, "Did something major happen outside?" This old man was the forefather of the Wei family. He had been cultivating here for more than a decade, but in terms of spirit, he was better than Wei Juduan. Once a martial artist reached an old age, it was inevitable that their vitality would decline. This was why the forefather of the Wei family had chosen to delegate most of the family's matters, and then go into seclusion to study Taoist scriptures. He cultivated and nurtured his mind in order to slow down his aging. Needless to say, this method was somewhat useful. At the very least, the forefather of the Wei family looked better than Wei Jiuduan. After all, while Wei Jiuduan's position as the penal officer was relatively easy, he still had to worry about all kinds of matters and schemes every day. His effort consumption was definitely greater than that of the forefather of the Wei family. Wei Mok said something happened. As he said that, Wei Mok told the forefather of the Wei family what had happened. In the end, Wei Mok said, "This matter is tricky because the other party is Chu Xiu. He is the Chu Xiu who made great contributions to the Guanzhong torture room. If it was an ordinary patrol inspector, it wouldn't be a problem for us to get rid of him secretly. But now that it's Chu Xiu, we can't act blindly without thinking." The forefather of the Wei family pondered for a moment and suddenly said, "Blow up the matter." Wei Mok was stunned. He then asked, "Blow up the matter?" The forefather of the Wei family said in a deep voice, "Go to the Yuan continent's Zhang family. The two of us will take action together and blow up the matter to the extent that Wei Jiuduan has no choice but to come out and suppress it. But remember to act appropriately. If we cripple or kill Chu Xiu, our Wei family will also be out of luck." Although Wei Jiuduan is old and looks useless now, he is still a torture officer. Before he retires, he doesn't want to make a big fuss. If he doesn't care about this matter, who will? Remember, it's best to let the people from the Guanzhong torture room deal with the people from the Guanzhong torture room themselves. This is also the reason why I want you to stuff the disciples of the Wei family into the Guanzhong torture room. Wei Mok quickly said, "Yes, I will do it now." The forefather was indeed the forefather. He immediately pointed out the crux of the matter. Although the forefather of the Wei family wasn't from the Guanzhong torture room, his understanding of the Guanzhong torture room was probably deeper than some of the martial artists from the Guanzhong torture room. So after leaving, Wei Mok directly brought his men to the Yuan continent's Zhang family. He was prepared to join forces with the Zhang family to stir up some trouble. There were countless sects and aristocratic families in the land of Guanxi. However, other than the Wei family, only the Yuan continent's Zhang family could be considered as a big family. Among them, the forefather of the Zhang family was also a great expert in the realm of oneness of heaven and man. In the past, the Wei family and the Zhang family also had some grudges and friction. However, both sides knew that in the land of Guanzhong, the Guanzhong torture room dominated. If they didn't join forces, it was estimated that every torture officer would cut off their flesh. So it was common for the two families to cooperate. After arriving at the Zhang family, Wei Mok stated his intention. The head of the Zhang family, Zhang Kunz, was a tall and burly man with a face full of curly beard. He looked more like a bandit than the head of an aristocratic family. He said, "Since the forefather of the Wei family has spoken, I will personally accompany you. To be honest, I really want to see what kind of person Chu Xiu is." In just a few years, he was able to make such a name for himself in the pugilistic world. I hope he isn't the kind of person who deceives the world to gain fame. Chapter 272. Before the Wei family and Zhang family made their move, the other small powers in the Guanxi region were actually watching. The inspectors from all over the Guanxi region had taken the initiative to admit defeat in front of Chu Xiu. Although this made the small powers angry, they could not do anything about it. However, just because they were helpless didn't mean that the famous Wei clan and Zhang clan in the Guanxi region were also helpless. With the strength of these two families, they were even qualified to talk to Wei Jiuduan on equal footing, let alone Chu Xiu. At this moment, Du Guangzhong nervously knocked on the door of Chu Xiu's study in the Jianzhou Prefecture's Inspector Hall. He said somewhat anxiously, "Sir, the Zhang family and the Wei family have made a move together. Their family heads have personally made a move and caused a huge commotion. They are preparing to come to the Jianzhou Prefecture to demand an explanation from you." Chu Xiu raised his eyebrows and said, "You are saying that they are making a huge commotion?" Du Guangzhong nodded and said, "It is. Almost everyone in the Guanxi region knows about it." An unfathomable smile appeared on Chu Xiu's face. He said, "All right, you don't have to worry about this matter. We will deal with it when it comes. These two families will not be able to stir up any waves." Du Guangzhong was a little confused. They were already coming, so how could they not be able to stir up any waves? Chu Xiu could guess what the Wei family and Zhang family were thinking. If these two families really wanted to deal with Chu Xiu because Chu Xiu had touched their reverse scale, why would they be so high profile and say that they would cause trouble for him? A dog that bites will not bark. It was just like how the Jiang family had plotted to kill the previous inspector, Fang Zhenyuan. At that time, no one had realized that the Jiang family was going to make a move against Fang Zhenyuan. In the end, the Jiang family had made a move and killed Fang Zhenyuan. No one could find any evidence. This time the Wei family and the Zhang family were so high profile. They were probably not here for him, but to put some pressure on Wei Jiuduan. However, they didn't expect that the current Chu Xiu wasn't someone that Wei Jiuduan could easily deal with. On the second day, the experts of the Wei family and the Zhang family had already arrived at the Jianzhou prefecture. At this time, in front of the Jianzhou prefecture hall, hundreds of warriors with the weakest Xiantian strength had surrounded the entire Jianzhou prefecture hall. This made the constables of the Jianzhou prefecture hall look as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Du Guangzhong stood in front of the door and shouted at the Wei and Zhang families. "What do you want? This is the patrol hall of the Guangzhong torture room. Are you trying to challenge the laws of the Guangzhong torture room by doing this?" Wei Mok said indifferently, "You can eat whatever you want, but you can't say whatever you want. We're only here to seek justice from official Chu. It has nothing to do with the Guangzhong torture room." Zhang Kunz, who was standing beside Wei Mok, said coldly, "Go get the adults from your family. You don't have the right to speak here." Although the Zhang family of Yuan continent wasn't as famous as the Wei family of Nine Plains, the Zhang family was obviously superior in terms of the strength of their disciples. Zhang Kunz's character was also very domineering and direct. "So what if I'm here? Do you dare to attack the Guangzhong torture room directly?" Chu Xiu stepped out of the patrol hall. His aura didn't seem to be at a disadvantage when facing the Wei family and the Zhang family. The Wei family of Nine Plains and the Zhang family of Yuan continent were indeed famous in Guanxi, but what were they in the Jianghu? The realm determined the height of a person. Back at the God Weapon Conference, who was the person who befriended and secretly allied with Chu Xiu? It was the personal disciple of the World Society's Chen Qingdi. It was the elite disciple of the Mo family of Shanyang, and the Luo family of Wu County of the 9 major clans. Even if Chu Xiu's enemies were the disciples of the Azure Water Sword sect and the Nansong Xiahou clan, Chu Xiu's status was equal to theirs. A small family that could only dominate the Guanxi region. Why would Chu Xiu care about them now? Wei Mok and Zhang Kunz frowned when they saw Chu Xiu. Hearing about him was not as good as meeting him in person. They only realized that Chu Xiu was indeed worthy of his reputation. He had such power just after stepping into the Three-Flower realm. No wonder he could compete with the young elites in the Jianghu, and was ranked 6th on the Longhu leaderboard. Wei Mok said coldly, "We naturally wouldn't dare to act rashly with the prestige of the Guangzhong torture room. But the Guangzhong torture room also has rules. Official Chu, you are the Jianzhou prefecture's patrol inspector. Yet you are meddling in the business competition of another prefecture. I'm afraid this is a little inappropriate, right? Our Wei family might have had some small misunderstandings with you, Official Chu, but that was just a misunderstanding. Leave a line for others to go easy on us in the future. Our Wei family doesn't want to provoke Official Chu, and we hope that Official Chu won't provoke our Wei family." Zhang Kunz looked at Wei Mok with some surprise. This was somewhat different from what they had agreed on before. Previously, Wei Mok's plan was to cut off the hands that Chu Xiu stretched out and make him lose face. Now, it seemed that the Wei family only wanted to protect their own interests. What did he mean by this? In fact, Wei Mok's thinking was much simpler. He didn't want to push things too far at all. At this time, Chu Xiu was like the sun in the sky. Even if they wanted to suppress Chu Xiu, it was almost impossible. The internal department of the Guangzhong torture room wouldn't let a facade figure like Chu Xiu be humiliated by outsiders. Now that he saw Chu Xiu's momentum, he really didn't want to provoke him. If that was the case, then the best choice was to each take a step back. It was best for Chu Xiu to know his place. It didn't matter if he touched the interests of others, as long as he didn't touch the interests of the Wei family. Chu Xiu sneered when he heard this. Is the Wei family talking to me about the rules of the Guanzhong torture room? What a joke. The land of Guanzhong belongs to the Guanzhong torture room. The rules are also decided by the Guanzhong torture room. All you have to do is to abide by the rules. You don't have the qualifications to teach the rules of the Guanzhong torture room. Hearing Chu Xiu's incomparably domineering words, the surrounding constables of the Guanzhong torture room were a lot more excited. There were times when the Guanzhong torture room was domineering, especially when Guan Xiu had just taken over as the hall master. It could be said that there were internal conflicts and external pressure. It was precisely because of that situation that Guan Xiu was impartial in handling matters and acted according to the rules of the Guanzhong torture room. She was incomparably domineering towards anyone and any power. It was a pity that as the Guanzhong torture room gradually stabilized over the years, everyone was unwilling to cause trouble. They would often compromise by taking a step back. It had been a long time since Chu Xiu's domineering style was seen. Wei Mok didn't expect Chu Xiu to have such a domineering reaction. He couldn't help but laugh out of anger. What a joke! Whatever rules you say are the rules. Do you think we have to die just because you want us to? Looking at the surrounding people from the Wei and Zhang families, Chu Xiu looked around and said coldly, I want all of you to die, as long as you can do it. But why are you besieging the Jianzhou patrol hall? Are you trying to rebel? Retreat within 10 breaths of time. Otherwise, you'll be treated as a rebel. Wei Mok sneered. You Chu Xiu are really lawless. Whoever you say is a rebel is a rebel. We just want justice today. Since justice isn't here, our two families have no intention of leaving today. Chu Xiu snorted. You won't shed a tear until you see the coffin, huh? 10 breaths of time is up. The Wei and Zhang families besieged the Guanzhong torture room. Their crimes are unforgivable. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Xiu's figure moved. The heavenly demon dance in his hand was unsheathed and slashed at Wei Mok, and Wei Mok with a ghastly demonic aura and soaring blood qi. Good timing. Wei Mok's eyes revealed a touch of coldness. He had originally planned to blow up the matter. Now that Chu Xiu had taken the initiative to attack, it was exactly what he wanted. Therefore, the moment Chu Xiu made his move, Wei Mok said to Zhang Kunz, who was beside him, Brother Zhang, you don't have to make a move first. Help me hold the line. As soon as he finished speaking, Wei Mok had already unsheathed a dark blue long sword in his hand. The shining ice soul qi was attached to the sword's aura. With a deep chill, it met Chu Xiu's blade. The difference between the 5 qi's origin realm and the 3-flower realm was in the foundation of power. The 3-flower realm was the unification of essence, qi and spirit. It could bring powerful explosive power to a martial artist. On the other hand, the 5 qi's origin realm was the condensation of the power of the 5 elements in the body's 5 internal organs. It cycled endlessly, and it could bring a martial artist a deep foundation. Therefore, in terms of pure power cultivation, Wei Mok, who had stepped into the 5 qi's origin realm for several years, naturally far surpassed Chu Xiu, who had just stepped into the 3-flower realm. Although it was widely acknowledged that the difference between the 5 qi's gathering in the origin realm and the 3 flowers at prominence realm wasn't that big, a difference of 1 realm was still a difference. Wei Mok was still very confident in himself. However, when the sword and saber collided, Wei Mok's confidence was shattered to the point that not even a little bit remained. The pure demonic aura on the heavenly demon dance was rare in the world. It contained no impurities and was pure demonic aura that was condensed to the extreme. With one slash, Wei Mok's sword aura was completely shattered. His expression suddenly changed. How could Chu Xiu's power be so great? After the collision of power, Wei Mok realized that Chu Xiu was not as strong as him. However, whether it was the astonishing demonic aura on Chu Xiu's long blade or Chu Xiu's aura that was filled with endless power, they were so powerful that he found it unbelievable. When the quality of the aura was strong to the extreme, it could actually completely surpass the quantity. At that moment, Wei Mok's sword momentum suddenly changed from offense to defense. In an instant, the endless sword aura turned into icicles that froze Chu Xiu's blood-refined divine aura. It even spread along Chu Xiu's blade toward Chu Xiu. However, at that moment, the demonic aura on the heavenly demon dance erupted. Boundless black demonic aura also erupted on Chu Xiu's arm. The Avicii demon blade, the gates of hell opened. The pure demonic aura on the heavenly demon dance was like nourishment for Chu Xiu's 3 blades of Avicii. He had only slashed out the first move, but its power was stronger than the previous second move. Chapter 273. Back at the God Armament Conference, Chu Xiu had painstakingly obtained the heavenly demon dance. Although it was not a God armament, it was still a top-grade precious weapon. This was the first time Chu Xiu had used the heavenly demon dance, and his opponent was a martial artist at the 5 Qis collecting in the origin realm. Chu Xiu was actually quite satisfied with its power. At the very least, under Chu Xiu's Avicii demonic blade, the sword aura in Wei Mok's hand was completely shattered. Even he himself was forced to take a step back. Looking at the chip on the long sword in his hand, Wei Mok grimaced with some heartache. The longsword in his hand was a 5th-grade precious weapon produced by the God Armament Pavilion. He had paid a great price to obtain it from a caravan of Eastern Qi. In the end, after clashing with Chu Xiu's saber, a nick had appeared, and the sword was already half ruined. Moreover, this was not the end. Chu Xiu used the 3 Avicii demonic blades one after another. A powerful demonic qi burst out. At this moment, Chu Xiu was like a demon god. He was incomparably valiant and actually forced Wei Mok to retreat again and again. Zhang Kunz, who was holding the line on the side, had a strong sense of fear in his eyes. He had already held the long sword in his hand and was ready to attack at any time. Previously, Zhang Kunz had not placed Chu Xiu in his eyes. He was a little arrogant and had always felt that the reputation of Chu Xiu, a martial artist of the younger generation, was mostly just bragging. In fact, he was not as strong as the rumors said. However, when he saw Chu Xiu today, he believed it. With the strength of the 3-flower realm, Chu Xiu was actually able to suppress Wei Mok, who had stepped into the 5 Qis collecting in the origin realm for several years. Now that Zhang Kunz had replaced Wei Mok, the result would probably not be much better. Just when Zhang Kunz was ready to attack Chu Xiu, a dragon claw of aura several tens of feet in size suddenly fell. The powerful aura directly shook Chu Xiu and blasted Wei Mok to the side. Wei Jiuduan walked out of the crowd with a gloomy face and said coldly, "What are you doing? What are you guys doing? Are you trying to rebel?" Actually, Wei Jiuduan had no intention of coming out. He was more than happy to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. Chu Xiu's performance had already somewhat exceeded Wei Jiuduan's expectations, causing him to feel some fear. However, fear was fear. If he was still in his prime, he would definitely not tolerate the existence of a subordinate like Chu Xiu. He would definitely choose to suppress him immediately. But now he was about to retire. Naturally, it was more important to get benefits. As long as Chu Xiu didn't touch his interests before he retired, Wei Jiuduan didn't plan to care about Chu Xiu anymore. However, now that the Wei family and the Zhang family had caused such a huge ruckus, they had actually sent people to besiege the patrol hall, and had even started fighting. If Wei Jiuduan did not show himself and allowed the situation to worsen, he would probably have to retire early as a disciplinary officer. Seeing that they had finally forced Wei Jiuduan out, Wei Mok chuckled and said, "Lord Wei is finally willing to appear? I don't have any intention of rebelling. I just want justice. Official Chu has gone too far. Could it be that he doesn't allow us to cry out our grievances?" Wei Jiuduan frowned and said to Chu Xiu in a deep voice, "Chu Xiu, I don't care about what you've done in the other prefectures, but you've messed up the entire Guanxi region. If I don't do something about it, I'm afraid that the entire Guanxi region will be seething with resentment. Recall all your men. Just take care of the prefectures under your command. Don't meddle in other matters." Chu Xiu said indifferently, "The Punishment Bureau is investigating the various aristocratic families in the Guanxi region to see if there are any smuggling or other illegal activities. Could it be that Lord wants to interfere? Don't forget, Other than being a patrol inspector under the Guanxi region, I'm also a secret agent of the Punishment Bureau. The entire Punishment Bureau is under the direct jurisdiction of Hall Master Guan. Lord, I fear you can't control me? Wei Jiuduan stilled. He had never thought that Chu Xiu would contradict him, and even threaten him. It had to be said that Chu Xiu had never disobeyed his orders. Whether it was when he gave Wei Hanshan's prefecture to Yang Ling, or Kai Jingsheng's prefecture to Wei Changling, Chu Xiu could only compromise. Wei Jiuduan had vividly displayed this rule. But now, Chu Xiu dared to disobey his orders. This caused Wei Jiuduan's expression to darken. Nearing Chu Xiu, Wei Jiuduan said in a low voice, Chu Xiu, what do you want to do? Play this game with me. Don't forget, I haven't retired yet. The Guanxi region still belongs to me, Wei Jiuduan. Chu Xiu said gravely, I don't want to do anything. I just want to take back what belongs to me. Official way, you can do it twice but not thrice. I gave you face with Yang Ling, and I also gave you face with Wei Changling. Those were 2 prefectures, and I gave them up. Now, I am just using the power in my hands to get some benefits. Is this breaking the rules? There is no reason in the world for one person to suffer losses. In any case, I will not give up this time. If the Wei and Zhang families are dissatisfied, then let them attack the Inspector Hall. I, Chu Xiu, am not afraid. If things really get out of hand, I want to see if the blades of the Guanzhong torture room are harder, or the bones of those 2 families are harder. Chu Xiu's domineering words caused Wei Jiuduan's expression to darken. If things really got out of hand, the Wei and Zhang families would be in trouble. They would be liquidated by the Guanzhong torture room. Even he himself would have to retire. Even if Guan Xiyu had not found a suitable successor, he would not let a person who could not even maintain peace in his own district be the torture officer. Wei Jiuduan wanted to lecture and reprimand Chu Xiu, but he did not have the courage in front of so many people. The only advantage that Chu Xiu had was that he had made a name for himself in the God Weapon Conference. Some people even called him the face of the Guanzhong torture room. Of course, this was only for the younger generation, but it was enough to shock people. Right now Chu Xiu had the power. Unless he did something extremely evil, something that even Guan Xiyu could not tolerate, no one could touch Chu Xiu during this period of time. Even Wei Jiuduan could not, unless he wanted to be accused of mistreating a meritorious official. So after thinking for a while, Wei Jiuduan suddenly realized that he was helpless against Chu Xiu. At least he was helpless now. Wei Jiuduan's gaze was dark as he said in a low voice, You really won't retreat? Chu Xiu said indifferently, I won't retreat. Wei Jiuduan's eyes revealed an angry and complicated expression. This was the first time he felt that the situation had completely gone out of his control. Chu Xiu was no longer the Chu Xiu that he could do whatever he wanted to him. He had been a disciplinary officer in Guanxi for decades. He had seen his subordinates who were unyielding, who were outwardly obedient, who were secretly disobedient, and who were restless. However, all of them had been subdued by him. Wei Jiuduan did not expect that when he was nearing retirement, someone would suddenly appear and completely break out of his control. Wei Jiuduan had to admit that he had underestimated Chu Xiu. This person's speed of growth was beyond his imagination. In just a short period of time, this Chu Xiu had already broken out of his control and was challenging him. Most importantly, this Chu Xiu's attitude made Wei Jiuduan understand what it meant to have wild ambitions. It was precisely because Chu Xiu had obediently admitted defeat and made concessions the last 2 times that Wei Jiuduan thought that this Chu Xiu was still very sensible and knew his limits. He was no different from his previous subordinates. In the end, he only found out today that Chu Xiu's forbearance and concessions were all an act. Now that his position had been completely stabilized, to the point that even he could not touch him, this Chu Xiu finally revealed his fangs. Good, good, good. Very good. Chu Xiu, I have never misjudged a person in this life, but today, I misjudged you. If I had known earlier, I would have helped Wei Hanshan suppress you back then, making it so that you would never have a day to stand out. Wei Jiuduan said in a cold tone. Chu Xiu said indifferently, Unfortunately, there is no medicine for regret in this world to eat. Lord Wei, You still have a few years before you completely retire. One must leave a line for others to meet in the future. You are my old superior. Take a step back now, and I will also remember this favor in the future. Why are you fighting for so much? Wei Jiuduan snorted coldly and did not speak. He was the Guanxi region's disciplinary officer. Although he was about to retire, it was precisely at this time that he was even more sensitive. Wei Jiuduan had been in power for so many years. Now, to ask him to take a step back and admit defeat to his subordinates, this was something that Wei Jiuduan could not do. Seeing Wei Jiuduan's appearance, Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "Since it's like this, then there's nothing to talk about. In any case, the Guanxi region's commercial lifeline is mine. If the Wei and Zhang families want to blow things up, I will accompany them. Even if I am reprimanded by Hall Master Guan in the end, those two families will not have a good ending. As for which side Lord Wei wants to stand on, I will not interfere." After saying that, Chu Xiu directly turned around and left, leaving behind a gloomy Wei Jiuduan. Wei Mok and Zhang Kunz looked at each other. Wei Jiuduan, the disciplinary officer, could not even suppress an inspector. What was going on? But seeing that Chu Xiu's side was extremely domineering, Wei Jiuduan could only turn his gaze to Wei Mok and Wei Mok. He said coldly, "You two have seen Chu Xiu's attitude. It is useless even if you force me out. If your Wei family had not provoked Chu Xiu and insisted on taking the prefecture government that belonged to him, why would Chu Xiu reach out to other places? Karma, is there any use in crying injustice to me now?" Wei Mok was inwardly disdainful. Chu Xiu was clearly an ambitious person. Even if he did not touch the prefecture government that belonged to Chu Xiu this time, would he not reach out to other places? Moreover, Wei Jiuduan had accepted money to agree to hand over the prefecture government that belonged to Chu Xiu to Wei Changling. But now, he spoke as though it had nothing to do with him. Wei Mok immediately snorted and said, "Chu Xiu's actions have completely disrupted the rules of the Guanxi region. How can my Wei family and the Zhang family continue to do business? Cutting off one's path to wealth is like killing one's parents. Lord Wei, you know this. Anyway, this matter will not end until it is resolved." Chapter 274. As a big family in Guanxi, of course the Wei family would not admit defeat. It was easy to give Chu Xiu some money and spend it like other aristocratic families, but who would make up for the loss of face? For a big family like the Wei family, face was more important than anything else. Wei Jiuduan rubbed his head, feeling a headache coming on. Chu Xiu was extremely powerful, and the Wei and Zhang families did not want to give in. What could he do? In the end, Wei Jiuduan could only say, "I'll give you all the prefectures in the Guanxi branch. Your Wei family and Zhang family can move their businesses there. No matter how long Chu Xiu's hand stretches, he won't be able to reach mine." As the penal officer, the state capitals around the Guanxi branch were under Wei Jiuduan's direct jurisdiction. The filial piety from these state capitals also belonged to Wei Jiuduan. Now that Wei Jiuduan had given these businesses to the Wei and Zhang families, the Wei and Zhang families should naturally take out a part of their filial piety to Wei Jiuduan. Therefore, Wei Jiuduan did not suffer a loss. However, at this point someone would suffer a loss. The real losers were the martial arts forces in the state capitals under Wei Jiuduan's command. The Wei family and the Zhang family, these two hegemonic clans, had suddenly intervened in the affairs of these states and prefectures. How could the small local powers have any meat to eat? It would be difficult for them to even drink soup. Of course, the Wei clan and the Zhang clan wouldn't care about this. Since Wei Jiuduan had spoken, the two of them cupped their hands and said, "Since that's the case, we will give Lord Wei face and stop making a fuss." After that, the two of them also left. Although the matter was temporarily over, the storm in Guanxi had not yet subsided. After this incident, whether it was the inspectors in Guanxi or the local martial arts forces, they all saw how powerful Chu Xiu was. Even Wei Jiuduan could not do anything to this subordinate. The Wei and Zhang families could not do anything to this Chu Xiu. Once they figured this out, the martial arts forces of other states and prefectures were completely convinced. If they did not want all their businesses to be annexed, they could only obediently give their filial piety to Chu Xiu. As for Jiang Taoran and the other patrol envoys, they understood many things through this matter. Wei Jiuduan was probably really old. It was time for their attitude to change. At this moment, the Wei family's patriarch was listening to Wei Mok's report with a grave expression. A long while later, the Wei ancestor sighed. These are troubled times. Wei Mok asked doubtfully, hasn't everything been resolved? Our Wei family did not retreat in the end, nor did we suffer any losses. Is there anything else? Ancestor Wei sighed. You have to look further ahead. The problem at hand has been solved, but what about the future? According to your description, Chu Xiu's character should be very overbearing. He has the look of a hawk and a wolf. Obviously, he is the kind of person with wild ambitions who is unwilling to live in peace. He is only a patrol envoy now. He only has some reputation among the patrol envoys, but he dared to stir up such a big matter. He even went against Wei Jiuduan. What will he be like when he becomes the penal officer? Wei Jiuduan is already old, and the true elites of the Guangzhong torture room are in the narcotics department. Those people are good at killing people, but they are not good at managing places. Therefore, the probability of Chu Xiu becoming the penal officer is very high. Now that our Wei family has already formed enmity with Chu Xiu, and thinking about Chu Xiu's character, if he really becomes the penal officer, what trouble will he stir up? Will our Wei family have a good ending? Wei Mok hesitated. Then patriarch, what should our Wei family do now? The Wei family's patriarch said in a deep voice, wait. Chu Xiu has a great influence now, and even Wei Jiuduan can't touch him, let alone our Wei family. When that halo disappears, Wei Jiuduan won't let him off, even if our Wei family doesn't find trouble with him. At that time, we just need to add fuel to the fire and watch from the side. There will naturally be people who will deal with Chu Xiu. Wei Mok nodded. In fact, he wasn't too worried. Their Wei family had experienced so many ups and downs in Guangzhong, and their history was even longer than the Guangzhong torture room. They had seen enemies stronger than Chu Xiu, but in the end, hadn't their Wei family still tortured them to death? One Chu Xiu was nothing. Now that everyone had restrained themselves and didn't want to make a move, Chu Xiu saw that there was nothing for his subordinates to do. So he only gave some instructions and went into seclusion. Back then, in front of the Water Cloud Monastery, Taoist Xiancheng had explained the 5 Qis unifications, and Chu Xiu agreed with his Taoist views. The heart belonged to the fire element, so one had to subdue the heart monkey and focus the mind. Treat the 5 viscera as 5 barriers and cultivate meticulously, reaching the pinnacle of each of them. This way, the 5 elements would merge into one and circulate endlessly, reaching the true pinnacle of the 5 Qis unifications. It could be said that this kind of cultivation method was a bit slow, but it was the best way to build a solid foundation. If Chu Xiu followed these detailed steps to polish the 5 Qis unifications realm, then when he really reached the 5 Qis unifications realm, he would be able to compete with other warriors who had already reached the 5 Qis unifications realm. The Taoist techniques were upright and gentle. Although the cultivation seemed slow, it was the most important to build a solid foundation. The first technique that Chu Xiu obtained was the Xiantian technique of the Taoist sect. Therefore, the traces of his cultivation also had a strong Taoist imprint. For the current Chu Xiu, he could be considered to be a dual cultivator of Taoism, Buddhism, and demonic Tao. Among them, the Taoist techniques helped him to build his foundation, while the demonic Tao techniques brought great power to Chu Xiu. As for the Buddhist techniques, they were both offensive and defensive. They could be adjusted in the middle, allowing Chu Xiu's cultivation to be more harmonious. After 3 months of seclusion, Chu Xiu's cultivation level actually didn't increase much. However, his understanding of the 5 Qis unifications and the accumulation of the power of the 5 viscera in his body had increased a lot. This was a painstaking process, and it also required enlightenment. Although it was a little taxing in the early stages, it would be able to soar in the later stages. After 3 months, Chu Xiu was ready to come out of seclusion. Most of the people in the patrol hall were active in other prefectures. Only Du Guangzhong and the Ghost Hand King were better at handling some internal affairs. Therefore, they had been staying in the patrol hall. Seeing that Chu Xiu had come out of seclusion, the Ghost Hand King asked, "Did you gain anything from your seclusion?" Chu Xiu shook his head and said, "It's only been 3 months. How could there be anything? By the way, did anything happen in Guanxi during this time?" Du Guangzhong was slightly speechless when he heard this. His lord was really domineering. If the other patrol envoys came out of seclusion, the first thing they would ask would be whether anything had happened in the prefecture under their jurisdiction. However, their master was different. He directly asked if anything had happened in the Guanxi region. He really put himself in the same position as Wei Jieduan. Of course, the current Chu Xiu was also qualified. In the whole of Guanxi, except for the prefectures directly managed by Wei Jieduan, the commercial lifelines of the other places were controlled by Chu Xiu. Moreover, all the martial arts forces in the whole of Guanxi, except for the 2 major families, the Wei family and the Zhang family, had chosen to side with Chu Xiu. There were also patrols like Jiang Taoran. They feared Chu Xiu even more than Wei Jieduan. It could be said that Chu Xiu's power was not inferior to Wei Jieduan, the real penal officer, except for the fact that he did not have the position of penal officer. The Ghost Hand King said, "It's been very quiet during this time. The martial arts forces in Guanxi are also very well behaved. Even the Wei clan and the Zhang clan have already laid down their banners and stopped making any movements." Chu Xiu nodded. He had also guessed that this would be the result. After all, he had the upper hand now. The Wei family and the Zhang family were not idiots. Of course, they would not find trouble with him at this time. At this time, Du Guangzhong suddenly said, "But a few days ago, there was some interesting news from the headquarters. There was a murder case in Eastern Qi. The family of Qiu Zhenqing, the owner of the Pegasus Ranch, was killed. This matter even alarmed the Eastern Qi royal family. So now the royal family of Eastern Qi has sent someone to the headquarters, asking them to send someone to investigate this matter. It is said that they have offered a very high price. Now the headquarters is thinking about who to send for the investigation." After hearing this, Chu Xiu was stunned. The owner of the Pegasus Ranch, Qiu Zhenqing, was dead? There was a deviation from the original plot here. The Pegasus Ranch was the largest ranch in Eastern Qi. The horses domesticated there were specially supplied to the Eastern Qi military. As the owner of the Pegasus Ranch, Qiu Zhenqing was not a member of the Eastern Qi imperial court. He was a man of Jianghu. The horses produced by the Pegasus Ranch were initially sold to various Jianghu forces for transportation. But later, because of the excellent quality of the horses, the Pegasus Ranch was targeted by the Eastern Qi imperial court. And Qiu Zhenqing was quite sensible. He directly offered the Pegasus Ranch to the Eastern Qi imperial court, and became a member of the Eastern Qi imperial court in one leap. The Eastern Qi imperial court also returned the favor. Every profession had its own specialization. The Pegasus Ranch was still managed by Qiu Zhenqing. Moreover, the Eastern Qi imperial court also gave a lot of money and resources to Qiu Zhenqing to expand the Pegasus Ranch. But the horses produced were mainly supplied to the Eastern Qi military. Originally, no matter how famous a horse breeder was, he should not be very popular. However, in the original version of the plot, Qiu Zhenqing accidentally obtained an extremely powerful ancient technique from an island in the East China Sea. It could predict the secrets of heaven and see through the changes of heaven, earth, and man. It was extremely powerful. Qiu Zhenqing cultivated in seclusion for 3 years to comprehend the divine skill, and stepped into the realm of martial arts grandmaster. With only one move, he severely injured a martial arts grandmaster from the diabolism. From then on, Qiu Zhenqing became completely famous in Jianghu. Even the Eastern Qi imperial court gave him more preferential treatment, and allowed him to continue to stay in the Pegasus Ranch. Such a famous big shot in the original plot was now dead. This plot deviation made Chu Xiu a little confused. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.